work when I dispute it.
It's a huge... As soon as you upload, boom, it detects everything. And you're like, oh, jeez. I got to deal with all this now. Okay, I think we're going live. All right, YouTube. Hello, hello. Good afternoon, folks. And we're doing the second most voted video, as you guys requested, from Lindsay Ellis. And she is talking about the ideology of the First Order, which is not a bad rundown of fascism. I know this is a very popular term these days. People like to talk about fascism as if it's like the new thing, but everyone's a fascist unless you're on my side of the aisle. And she tries to bring it back down to reality, which I appreciate. Although she doesn't quote the primary source, she quotes a secondary, I guess a boy who lived through fascism in Italy at the time and grew up and looked back at it. So what was that all about? So I don't mind those references as long as they make sense in the style of an argument. So yes, we're going to be looking at Disney and politics and Kylo Ren and a bunch of other wonderful things in Star Wars, because of course we are. So hey guys, how's it going? Hope everyone's having a great day, nice weekend. The weather is fantastic here in Canada. I don't know how it is in you, Shiny, but it's just wonderful.
It's pretty warm today.
Yeah,
but it's finally cool now as it's gotten dark. It's got the nice cool breeze.
Good point. Yeah, nice to sit on the patio, the veranda, just have a drink. Or watch some videos with me. It's always an option. Either or.
Well, it's not really an option to sit on the patio at 10 o'clock. So it would pitch black, cold outside.
That's a good point. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So anyway,
catch a cold or something.
Well, I don't know. I think the wind is nice in the evening. So, but yeah, it is the weekend. So take a breather. Don't do too much work. But we're going to be going through this wonderful video. It's not a bad video. It's got some minor points, but other than that, she does her research. So I appreciate it. And I like watching videos like this. So anyway, let's get going. It's 24 minutes. Sit back, relax, have a drink, and listen to us ramble on. We might have some people coming in later. Yay, Star Wars. Okay.
When Glib, either when Glib wakes up or when LitDev arrives.
Yeah, who knows? We'll find out. Anyway, let's go.
It's a beautiful day at Disney World's Hollywood Studios. The rock and roller coaster is rocking, a sea of Mickey ears flows through the park, and that Beauty and the Beast live show is mysteriously still running. And it is here at Disney World's Hollywood Studios. Every hour on the hour, a cavalcade of stormtroopers begins its march down the centrally located Hollywood Boulevard. Led by Captain Phasma to the First Order march theme, while hundreds of onlookers take pictures and admire what the Walt Disney World website describes as a daunting demonstration of the First Order's obedience and strength. Yikes. But for realsies, the March of the First Order is quite literally framed as a recruitment seminar. You know, for kids. And it's moments like these when you stop and notice the countless pieces of Stormtrooper merchandise, both for sale and being worn around the park, by adults and kids alike, and one has to wonder, how is it that we've arrived at a point where one of the largest multimedia conglomerates in the world can create a show at one of the world's most popular theme parks that is, in effect, cosplay fascism?
It's fun. It's cute. It's for kids. If I was a kid and I like Star Wars, I'd love this. In fact, if I went there as now, I'd probably enjoy it too. I don't know. I think the idea of going to a theme...
If it was, actual stormtroopers and not these fuckwits.
Well, I think the parade is fine. This is for kids, and if it's the biggest franchise in movie history...
But it's not even the good stormtroopers, though. It's the bad stormtroopers.
What are the bad stormtroopers, Shiny?
The First Order ones. Those are the bad ones.
Oh, that's what you mean. So you don't like the First Order stormtroopers, you mean? Okay.
No, they look awful.
They look pretty close. They're pretty similar, Shiny.
A real true fan can tell the difference.
Okay, all right.
You're just not a real fan. And,
apparently,
only a friend.
Have these doe eyes looking up the storm. It's the stormtrooper. Shiny's like, no, no, little boy, you're wrong. Here's John Lemley. Thank you, sir.
I've got some nice cherryade and rum. That's
cherryade. Oh my, you're getting sweet there. It's a little sugary for me.
Well, it's sugar free.
Oh, you're playing it smart. Okay. Having a nice clear mind is just the alcohol talking, not the sugar. Okay. Here's John Lemley. I can't wait to hear a non-definition of fascism given by pretentious YouTube video SES again. She likes her essay format, and I do appreciate that format because she actually takes the time to quote and reference things. Whether she understands that, that's a whole other ballgame, but at least she does the effort and quotes people.
I notice a lot of, like, just out of a while, so the thing that's become more popular is the idea of, why are you looking at the Empire? Why are you cosplaying as the Empire? Why are you running around with Imperial blasters? Why are you running around with Imperial helmets? Why do you like the Empire? It's not the idea thinking that because you like the Empire, like you want to be the Empire, or that you are actually a fascist or a Nazi. Because there is actually people who think that way for some reason. On Twitter, there was numerous people with blue check marks saying, "Oh my God, look that the Imperials were voted for on this poll here, where Star Wars fans said the Empire was more badass than the Rebels. This is proof that the Star Wars fandom is somehow fascist."
Or you can just see it as a parade and then start talking about it politically for the sake of talking about it because that's your mindset. I mean, this is just an amusement park, guys. This is all stems from one piece of music by John Williams, which was so popular that everyone associated that with totalitarianist regimes. And whenever you have people walking around in the Imperial Death March, it's like, oh, cool. Like it's a cool song. It's an intimidating song, but not because of the sequel trilogy, because of the original trilogy. So that's just how it works. So I wouldn't mind going to I like going to theme parks. We have Canada's Wonderland up in Toronto or north of Toronto. We also there's Six Flags. There's all sorts of wonderful theme parks out there. Take your kids, take your girlfriends, have a good time. It's summer. I know they're not open right now, most of them, because of COVID. But I guess, we're sort of like, man, I wish we had a beach to go to that wasn't so crowded, or a theme park we can go to. So criticizing a theme park these days is kind of funny.
It's the lack, going back to the original video, it's the lack of understanding of what it actually is. It's like the people doing this, they're not thinking about fascism, they don't care about fascism, they're not supporting fascism, they're not intentionally acting like a fascist. They're just people who are getting dressed for fun, and people look at the stormtroopers like, oh my God, this is the stormtroopers, the thing from Star Wars. It's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. It's immersive. You have this Imperial army, and it's fun. Like, people don't play games because they want to become a soldier. People, they don't play Doom because they want to be a Doom Marine, like fighting demons. They play it because it's a fun game. It's
right.
Something fun to do.
Especially when you combine it with the fact of being part of a fictional group like an empire. I'm doing this for the Empire. I'm going to slaughter my enemies for the Empire. Like, there's this cause to be part of a group in role playing. It's fun.
It's almost like there's a fictional part or a non-realistic part of being involved in something fictional.
Yes, so we have to analyze this fun little activity for kids and adults alike because it might have associated with a totalitarian regime or some other political philosophy. It's just like, all right, fine. I guess we could do this, Lindsay. I guess this is important to you, but okay. Here's John Lemley. The First Order is a social construct. I saw that coming. So it can't be fascist because fascism real. Yeah. Nothing's real. It's all a social construct back in the day. All right, let's go.
Fascists, right?
No.
I mean, they look like fascists. They talk like fascists.
As the last day of the Republic!
They have a fascist ideology. Wait, actually, on second thought, do they? Does the First Order have any ideology? That's right.
That's a good question. Did JJ ever write anything in episode 7 about the politics of the First Order, aside from they're now there and they're going to attack the Republic?
They do Nazi salutes, and so they don't like the Republic, and that's about it.
Yeah, there's really nothing implied fascist about them being aside from being a military order with a certain sense of style. and having a grand commander, or you can call it a president, you can call it whatever Snoke is. He's just the guy in charge. Military leader. There could be someone else behind Snoke. We don't know. There's really no established understanding politically of this group of people who are remnants of the Empire.
But obviously they're just right wing.
I know, but that's the thing. How do you define fascism?
Obviously right wing.
I know, it's just like,
just right wing. It's just the right wing.
Fascists are right wingers. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's all the same thing.
John Lemley, thanks again. Talking loud at a speech equals fascism. Obviously, it's pretty much once you start screaming up and down like Trotsky or Lenin. Yeah, that's something else.
Well, he was. I think it's very obvious what JJ was going for. Like the very obvious symbolism of Nazis.
I think he was just ripping off Star Wars. I don't think he was going anything political.
No. I think he was trying to make the First Order be very symbolic of Nazis, as you have, the fist up in the air salute. If you just open up that fist, it becomes a Hitler salute.
Sure.
If you, the way he's speaking and shouting, and the way he's on like the stage, and the flags behind him, it's very similar to a lot of Hitler's speeches, and that's something which he's not afraid to admit that he took a lot of inspiration from. I know it's not him ripping off A New Hope, yes, but that, like, the visual elements that he's adding, they're very much supposed to be just Nazis, just straight up Nazis.
I would say he's just ripping off A New Hope or 4, 5, and 6.
But you're talking about, he's ripping off the story, but I'm talking about the visual aspect, like specifically this one scene here where they're holding up their fists, they're doing all this stuff. That there was Nazis. Everything, like the story itself, that's ripped off. But just this part where he's screaming on stage, that's what I'm talking about.
There's nothing
there in that scene which is from A New Hope. I'm
trying to be bit more practical with JJ as a creator of things, not as a person who's like, I was really inspired by World War II style. No, that all occurred in the George Lucas era of the 70s and the 80s.
I don't think he was inspired. I think he just threw it in there. It's extremely on the nose.
Oh yeah, no. That's what I mean. That's why I don't think much thought was being behind JJ's design, or whoever was in charge of costume and what have you, design of the First Order. Mm-hmm. I think he was just going, okay, what's Star Wars? Stormtroopers. We got to have stormtroopers. We got to switch it up a bit. And I can barely tell the difference, honestly. Bunch of guys in white armor with helmets walking around. Same old thing. Same. If they really wanted to switch it up, they would at least have changed the color, at least. But they didn't. So they're white, the worst color to have in military, unless you like fight in the tundra or something. I don't know. They're spacemen. That's what it must be.
Well, the thing is about space is there's not really much camouflage. I mean, if they're storming onto a ship or like some kind of base, there's not going to be foliage or snow, so there's not really much point in having camo.
I wouldn't have mind seeing black stormtroopers, all black. That would be cool.
There are all black stormtroopers. They're called shadow troopers.
I mean, like the whole army just black.
Oh,
I've seen TIE fighters pilots be all black. I think the pilots are all in black. They are.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's racist.
They're racist TIE fighters. Okay.
You see, because you call them TIE fighters and they're actually black, and that is cultural appropriation of the TIE people and
the TIE people, the people in the hangar base. We're called TIE technicians. Here's a White Knight Leo. Thank you, sir. Yet another topic we get absolutely nothing from the films. We don't get enough info to even know whether they are fascist or not. Exactly. This could just be a standard military leader who's in charge of a lot of people, and who knows why. They could all be, again, we know they're all children slaves that were mind controlled to be part of the military. So if you have that at your disposal, that's no longer a political association. That's like a psychological one. That's some sort of mind controlling problem that
Well, it's more like brainwashing than
yeah, it's something like
mind controlling.
closer to 1984, which is also a part of fascism if you want to go that far. It's just the most obscure, crazy version of it, taken up as far as it can go. So I don't mind that. I don't mind them using these ideas. I just wish it was more. If it was really fascist, they would have to actually have political discussions, which we sort of saw in first 3 episodes, which there were politics. It wasn't very complicated, but you don't have to make it complicated talking about military organizations. And all we know is that Hux is really high up on the ladder until he's not. And then in episode 9, there's like all kinds of people. And we're like, who are these guys? Who are all these people on the boardroom trying to mirror, was it episode 4? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Theology of the... I mean, what did you expect? I'm not saying putting space fascists on Rice Krispie treats is like bad or immoral. I'm just saying it's interesting how Disney has pushed their marketing of the dark side to be as evocative of real-world fascist movements as possible, while not so evocative that people start casting a side eye at putting stormtroopers on cuddly throws. But despite being fiction, the First Order is based, more than anything, on history's most famous group of fascists. And that kind of begs the question.
Okay, the Nazis, not the fascists. The fascists is a whole other category.
Can you import the aesthetics of fascism while kind of tabling fascist ideology so that you can sell Captain Phasma Christmas ornaments?
Apparently so. If all it is an aesthetic, then yes. It doesn't matter what you call it. It looks like them. That's about it. Thanks, Lindsay. It's pretty obvious they sell a lot of toys back in the day.
I mean, the answer is obviously yes, but we're going to go ahead and make a thing out of it anyway.
Okay.
It's common knowledge that the Star Wars universe was based heavily on drawing from a 30-year cycle of nostalgia and had 2 heavily aesthetic influences pulled from that particular past. Spacey fantasy serials like Flash Gordon, which George Lucas originally wanted to adapt for film but couldn't obtain the rights for, and World War II imagery. But there is a tendency in nerd critical spaces for people to get kind of defensive when you start talking about the fact that Star Wars was a little extremely inspired by World War II, and this is known and has been known since it was incepted. But I look forward to an interesting...
The thing is, okay, so I know what you're talking about. You're saying that the Empire is inspired by Nazis, but we've already talked about this on the other Smudcast that was all about, I think, Renegade Cut talking about fascism.
Sure.
Where Nazis... Oh, sorry. The Empire isn't just Nazis. It is taking from lots of different inspirations and lots of different ideas of empires throughout history, of just taking little bits of that and this, and putting it all together, and you have yourself the Empire.
Right.
You know, you've got the idea of these really, these British admirals, almost exactly the kind of admirals you'd get in really old British captains, or like who would be on these wooden sailing vessels in the British Navy. Those kind of ideas, and then there's 2 obvious inspirations, and then you keep going down, you find these other ideas which have been put in there. So it's not just straight up Nazis; it's lots of different things. And one of the obvious flaws with trying to say, well, the Empire is just Nazis, is that the Empire is an empire ruling the entire galaxy. The Nazis, while I suppose if you really want to call them an empire, sure. They were an empire that was trying to take over everything, that was in the process of trying to do it, not one that had actually succeeded. So it doesn't really work with that analogy, because if you're trying to go directly, if that's just Nazis,
right.
It's them actively trying to take over and slowly swarming over everything.
We're just in the category of aesthetics, so we can say, well, this is inspired by the 10s and the 20s or what have you era that had a certain look, and that's fine. And then you could adopt the philosophy of those people who had those designs or had those costumes, and that's fine. But it's purely surface level. There's not enough explanation in episode 7, at least that I can see, that relates itself to a particular ideology, aside from they are a military force and they're gigantic. That's it. Everything else is, we don't know how they live. We don't know their politics. We don't know how the family unit works. We don't know where their children come from. We don't know anything about this aside from they steal babies and make them soldiers, and that's it. There's no politicking. There's no resources. There's no taxation we're aware of. We just don't know. So it's a far cry from episode 1, or at least the idea of taxes were mentioned, and the concept of a Senate was introduced. So, White Knight Leo, thanks again, sir. A bigger plot hole than Rey. Finn knows that his comrades are brainwashed child soldiers, but doesn't hesitate at all to kill them. That would have been nice if Finn had the breakdown as opposed to Luke, and Finn was reluctant to fight like he was when he was with the First Order. That would have made sense. But hey, let's have Luke do the whole shindig of being reclusive and nihilistic in his old age. Yeah, fantastic story. And Mark in 3D, thanks again. Lindsay, you silly. It was only inspired by Space Cop. Yeah, I know. Space Cop, the wonderful story by, was it Mike and Rich? Who are those guys in Red Letter Media who made Space Cop?
And I think what she's referring to when she's talking about the fans is like, oh, the fans get upset if you say it's inspired by World War II Nazis. It's like, okay, so it depends in what way you're trying to communicate. Like, if you're just saying they are straight up Nazis or it's terrible for not liking them, I suspect that you have tried. If someone is saying this to you, I'm sure it's the way you have communicated it, because I think a lot of people are kind of accepting of the fact that yes, certain elements of the Empire are taken from Nazi Germany, just like they're taking other elements from the British Empire, from so many other empires, etc.
I think that the major one that I can latch onto, if it is there at all, is the fact that everyone is sort of speaking the same language with the same inflection, which associates with national identity, which you can say fascist or any sort of nationalist opinion would share. But even that would just be a nationalist view, not a fascist view. So you could say that of any group or ethnic group in the beginning. So that's kind of normal, especially when everyone is a brainwashed child soldier. So they'd all act accordingly anyway, and sound accordingly, and look accordingly.
Hello. So it'll do whatever it is that it's supposed to do. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave me a comment.
You know what
it
it does.
Kylo
Just
Ren
being
is
quirky.
the sexiest space Nazi in the galaxy. Just kidding, I don't read the comments. If there is one aesthetic influence on the Empire, and by extension their descendants, the First Order, it was the Third Reich. This is a convenient visual shorthand, especially for audiences in the 70s, for whom the horrors of Nazi Germany were close enough that this was simple and effective, but not so recent that it's, too real. To quote the recently passed costume designer for the original Star Wars trilogy, John Monroe, Lucas wanted the Imperial people to look efficient, totalitarian, fascist, and the rebels, the goodies, to look something out of a Western or the US Marines. He said, "You've got a very difficult job here, because I don't want anyone to notice the costumes. They've got to look familiar, but not familiar at the same time." But in general,
Yeah,
the
totalitarian
from
and
uniform
fascist,
tailoring
and not
to
like
the
they
color schemes
look.
to the headgear
And that's
seems
not
pretty
really the
obvious as a source of
ideology.
inspiration. It's even there in the way the actors playing the Empire characters approached their roles. To quote actor Kenneth Colley, who played Admiral Pete in the original trilogy, obviously they were going on some sort of design for Darth Vader's men. There were echoes of the Gestapo, or at least fascism, in there, and that was how I approached the role. And this doesn't even begin to dive into George Lucas's thoughts when it comes to the prequels, where he describes the rise of the Emperor in Revenge of the Sith as, "How do you turn over democracy to a tyrant with applause? Not with a coup, but with applause. That is the story of Caesar, Napoleon, and Hitler." So, deliberate reference to fascist iconography is there in all Star Wars movies. But if we're talking about the prevalence of Nazi imagery in popular culture, guess we need to talk about our girl.
Turn down for what?
Wait, no. No, you're a f***ing fascist. You don't deserve turned down for what?
Look at this photograph.
Okay, that's better.
What?
It's hard to talk about the history of film, let alone the Star Wars franchise, without eventually discussing the work of director Leni Riefenstahl, whose most notable works were her propaganda films made in celebration of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, Triumph of the Will, and Olympia. Writer
Okay, this is really pushing it. Okay, we're talking about a propagandist of World War I and II, or at least World War II. And comparing it to Star Wars, it's like, Ellis, you're going way too far. You're really reaching here. You don't need to, like, maybe some posters, maybe the design of some layouts, I wouldn't go that after that. Everything else is spaceships, space opera stuff. It's really far removed. Yeah, you could say the scene of the large crowds of military display is similar to Episode 7 with the speech with Hux. Yep, sure. Aesthetically, the imagery is there. We got it. We understand. Everything else, no. There's no propaganda, as far as I can tell, in Episode 7 or 8 or 9. They're just a military force. That's it. And how they gain power is totally not explained in the narrative. It's just, now they're in control. It's like, how did they reign supreme after a day from Episode 7? Very strange. So here's John Lemley again. Thank you, sir. How is Anakin looking at the high ground reminiscent of fascist iconography? I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to grasp. I wish we could understand where she's coming from, but apparently we got to talk about this propagandist from 100 years ago.
Activist Susan Sontag once wrote that Riefenstahl is the only major artist who was completely identified with the Nazi era and whose work, not only during the Third Reich but 30 years after its fall, has consistently illustrated some of the themes of fascist aesthetics. And while the topic of Leni Riefenstahl and the impact of her work could easily fill a much longer video than this, we are keeping it simple. For more on Riefenstahl's influence on Triumph of the Will, see Dan Olson's video on the same subject. Suffice to say that, aside from the whole Nazi propaganda thing, Leni Riefenstahl is notable for, debatably, pioneering filming techniques, editing, and striking sweeping shots, in particular for documentary film. But more relevant here is the iconography she developed to show the power of the Reich that influences depictions of Nazis and fascists to this day. The iconography that we associate with Nazis isn't from historical documents or from, non-Nazi historians, it's from Nazi propaganda. Specifically, this Nazi propaganda, and that is Leni Riefenstahl's legacy. So when we see the aesthetics of the Empire and the First Order, they aren't inspired by the Third Reich, but by Nazi propaganda about the Third Reich. So, it's the Cold War. Leni Riefenstahl's been acquitted of any war crimes, despite her film's value to the Nazi Party and propaganda and her friendship with Hitler and Goebbels. This narrative of Leni Riefenstahl as an auteur who just, happened to make films for a monstrous regime emerges, and a renewed international interest in her work accompanies it and reaches a whole new generation of film directors. Ahem. So you see these shots of marching soldiers, the way villains are filmed from slightly below.
You can look at marching soldiers in anything, and you can they're just marching soldiers. You could look at the Queen's Jubilee, and you'll see marching British soldiers in their red uniforms with their silly hats, and their rifles. They're marching in a very similar way because it's soldiers marching. Surprisingly enough, they all look the same, just in different uniforms. It's marching.
Yeah, you could just change the color of any regalia of any shot of a military organization in a hall. Walking down the street, they're all in lockstep. It's like, this is a military group. They all look the same, okay? They are all lined up one by one in a grid of some sort. It's pretty basic stuff, guys. It's not. This is clearly fascist. This is every military ever.
Do you know, it is in Moscow? There was this years and years and years ago. I can't remember what it was. I just remember watching a video of it, of all these armies marching in unison, holding their flags. It's like Russian army, US army, British army, German army, French army, all the armies, and they're all marching in line. I never saw so many fascists because they're all marching.
Believe it or not, there's quite a large number of countries in the world that were fascist for a time. I think France was one of them. There's dozens, but it's just. It's just like everyone sort of experimented with certain politics over the years, and of course the French did because they're very gung ho on politics. So I don't mind that. Hey, they were their moment of fascists came and went, and they were inspired by Hitler, and they were inspired by Mussolini, and they were inspired by Japan. And you're like, okay,
a moment of fascist.
Yeah,
you get a moment of fascists.
Exactly. Almost every, not every country, but dozens of them in Europe and what have you. Did that. So, but yes, even if you go back thousands of years, military organizations existed and they had marching and they all lined up and they all were organized and very specific. So it's nothing new, guys. Even the helmets here, as we look at the rebels, are very similar to the stormtroopers. They're just different colors. They're gray, so and white. So it's not a big deal. Anyway,
they're wearing round helmets. Do you know who also wore round helmets?
The
Nazis.
Spaceballs. The Spaceballs were.
Nazis wore helmets.
Yeah, the Spaceballs, was it Canadian production? I can't recall, but that was clearly inspired by the Nazis too. They were also trying to be a fascist organization. John Lemley, thanks again. Guys, technique is bad and doesn't count if you don't like the content. Okay.
And this very direct call to a shot and triumph of the will, and the influence is surprisingly overt.
Oh,
so
they have people in they have people standing attention while there's a line in the middle where people can watch. You know, they have like lines in the middle in like fucking things like cinemas, right? Is they have people to the sides. Like, it's just a regular thing to have sides where people stand and people could walk in the middle. It's not unique to when.
I want
to. You just separate two lines of people. You know, when Moses separated the ocean, this was allegory.
He was really a Nazi in the beginnings.
Because he separated this ocean into two sides.
Yeah, this is really reaching, but this is just ridiculous stuff. I want that quote from Mark Hamill where it just says Nazi. That's what we're going to do every time. We just press that button. Nazi, just every time. Nazi.
Direct call to a shot and triumph of the will, and the influence is surprisingly overt. So this isn't oops, accidental Nazis. The call to fascist iconography is deliberate in all three trilogies.
But here's the thing about fascism. It usually rises for a reason. Never a good reason, but there's always a call to arms, if you will. An ideology.
Oh no. Notice how she's saying the Empire, because of course the whole point of the video is the First Order's ideology. But first we have to go back to episode 4, 5, and 6 and figure out what is their ideology. What do they really want?
Well, they want to keep ruling the galaxy. They want to get rid of the rebels.
Yeah, essentially. That's about it. That's all we know. That's all it's.
They want to rule the galaxy. The rebels don't want them to rule the galaxy, so they hunt down the rebels.
There you go.
We're going to try to discern the ideology of the First Order. It's only fair that we do the same for the Empire. So what did the Empire actually stand for in the original trilogy, if any?
Ruling the galaxy.
Well, the original trilogy never dives too deeply into it, and both the good guys and the bad guys play into larger, non-specific tropes in demonstrating their moral alignment, i.e. the flippant genocide of all of Alderaan by the Death Star. The Empire had no real conclusive ideology.
I forgot that moment in
the original trilogy.
Now you see that evil will always...
Yeah, I forgot that moment in history where Hitler blew up a planet. Obviously, fascism.
They attack enemies. What? That's clearly a fascist doctrine. On a large scale, they must be fascist. Okay, that's great.
Always triumph. Because good is dumb.
And part of this is because they don't need to. It has to do with where we enter the story, and this is one strength the original trilogy has. And yes, actually, even the prequels.
I'm a person, and my name is Anakin.
Bear with me. When we first meet Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, we are entering a universe where the Empire is not only in power, it is the only power. They've been in power since before Luke was born, and this is the only power structure young Luke has ever known, and therefore the only one we, the audience, know. Moreover, the story starts on Tatooine, a shithole of a planet that nobody cares about.
I have no need for a protocol droid.
Of course you haven't, sir. Not in an environment such as this.
Day-to-day life is kind of impacted. Luke understands that the Empire is unjust, but it's not the worst ever. The Empire more or less leaves people alone unless they rabble-rouse, like most totalitarian states in peacetime. Luke isn't really even keen on joining the rebellion until his family gets torched. Meanwhile, with the prequels, again, hot mess though they are, the power structure in place does make sense, kind of. And though it requires an absurd level of 13-dimensional chess on the part of Palpatine,
I think it's funny where the Naboo, the Naboo government structure is one of the most weird and not explained power structures ever of how they have an elected queen. It's never explained why they have an elected queen, and then talking about power structures.
Who has 2 terms max. It's like, okay, are you a president? What are you? What's going on here?
And she's a child.
And a senator. It's like, whoa. What else?
Well, no,
can you
she
do?
becomes a senator after she stops being the queen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's not a senator until episode 2.
So the queen of a planet can become a senator. I don't know of the rest of the
Well,
galaxy.
after the term is up of being the queen, then she can become the senator. The idea is that the queen is the person who rules the planet, while the senator is the one who looks after the planet's interest in the Senate.
It's kind of like a really embellished ambassador, but you're Senate of the Galactic Empire or the Galactic Republic.
Yeah, you get to. It's kind of like you know how countries in the EU get to select certain representatives who are going to vote for them. And the fun part is that we don't get to choose who's going out and voting in the EU Senate, whatever it's called. Fun. Well, luckily we're no longer part of the EU, so.
Yeah, I know a lot of people didn't like that choice. I hear, but yeah,
I'm happy with it.
That's how it goes, guys. We're not our world. We just sort of watch from across the ocean. Go, yep, okay.
Same, and then we laugh at you, and you laugh at us.
Oh, I laugh at
Americans we keep going.
because it's every day. It's entertaining, so I can't help myself. Then again, if you look at our parliament, we're pretty ridiculous too. So I think we're in our 3rd scandal.
Yeah, you have a certain person. You have a certain person who he shall not be named.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, your secret brother.
$992 billion. Was it billion or million? I think it was million. Yeah, $992 million scandal. It's like, oh, thank you, liberals. Bravo. Glad you're working overtime.
What happened?
Oh, I don't want to get into it. It's just the amount of money that they're blowing is like, oh, this is crazy.
Dude, didn't your government spend like an absurd amount on like modern art?
That happens once every few years. They buy like a $15 million painting every time they make a new branch of government. It's like, oh, thanks.
Instead of buying these $15 million paintings, why don't you spend it on something useful?
Like an actual building, yeah.
We could buy a building. Yeah.
Or the branch of government.
I really need this artwork for my building. This line on a canvas, it's so beautiful. It's called modern art.
Don't remind me how sad it is.
If they really wanted to, they could have a 5-year-old with some crayons make a better artwork and just stick it up there.
Here's easy cons. Thank you, sir. Padme becoming senator after queen is like Rick Scott becoming senator of Florida after becoming governor. Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of this comparison between American politics from state government to it's still state government, senator to governor. Oy, yeah, I know it's a bit wonky. The thing is that it's supposed to be that way. Space opera is an amalgamation of ideas, not fully explained, because that's not the point. The point is melodrama.
The story isn't to like fully explain the Empire. We get ideas of the Empire.
Yes.
We get the idea of scope and what we're looking at here. But essentially, the story is about Luke.
Yeah, you need just enough elements to make it believable, which it does an okay job. It could always have more, but that's not the point. You're gonna miss pacing. You're gonna miss details. You're gonna miss all this time talking about the Senate and who's this and that and what they vote on last month.
We get enough world building in A New Hope where they're talking like just whether like the last remnants of the Republic have been removed. We've got rid of the Senate, and fear will keep them in line. And talking about like the world that they're living in currently.
Right. So all we need to know in episode 1 to 3 is there's a galactic Senate and it transforms into the Empire. We wish we knew why and how it properly did that, because we're talking about an entire galaxy of people, and they just whimsically give it to this one guy in charge. And that's the story I wanted told better, not more. I want it told better. I don't care so much about galactic politics. I care about how Anakin becomes Darth Vader.
I wonder how many people, like, when Palpatine was writing, it's like, the Jedi tried to attack me, and it's like, oh yeah, that's horrible, and it's like, now let's become an empire. It's like, yeah, wait, what? What do you mean become an empire? We will form the greatest the first galactic empire. It's like, yeah, that's great. Wait, what is he talking about? Why are we suddenly an empire?
Just to fight the Jedi? They're right there. There's a building right there.
Fight the Jedi. Yeah, you kind of killed them all already.
Here's EC Cons. I am the House of Representatives. Nancy Pelosi. Okay, well, those are Americans for you. She's number 3 on the totem pole. We know.
There's another one.
Oh, you're right. I am the Parliament. Boris Johnson. Oh, really? Is that a thing with the UK? I don't think so.
Well, no, they I think Conservatives, they still have the majority of seats in the House of Commons, but I don't keep track of this. They still got a majority of seats, but they don't have half the seats. So, which means that they still have less than majority rule if they want something and the rest of the parties don't want something. It doesn't. We don't really work in terms of like the MP doesn't really have. Also, the Prime Minister doesn't really have much power over the House of Commons, other than being the face of the party,
the major party.
They're the leader of the party, and then the real power is getting those seats.
Right, and provided it's a majority government as opposed to a minority government.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah, very similar to Australia and Canada, the Westminster parliamentary system. Very different from, well, not very different, but it's reminiscent of a democratic process. So it's the same idea. Everyone votes. So
we vote for MPs. Then whoever gets the party with the most MPs gets the Prime Minister.
Yep, there you go.
Power structure, what it stands for, and how the Senate is duped by fear into giving themselves over to fascism, as evidenced by the one good line in all 3 movies.
So this is how liberty dies.
The one good line?
With thunderous applause.
Palpatine manufactured a crisis, exploited fear, somebody burned down the Reichstag, and
every time there's an election.
I was furious.
But in the new trilogy, we have the First Order fighting.
Every time an election, there's always someone holding up the this is how democracy dies.
Mess of a power structure that itself gets blown up halfway through The Force Awakens, before we even meet them or know who they are. Anyway, a similar plot point to the destruction of the New Republic happens in A New Hope. Grand Moff Tarkin orders the destruction of a planet that we've never seen or been to, but it works more effectively in A New Hope for one simple reason. It's Leia's home planet, and she make a sad face. Secondly, it's clear why the Empire destroys Alderaan. Leia is becoming a figurehead in this nascent rebellion, and it's her home planet. Moreover, this is a common tactic in totalitarian states. Big displays of force to keep the folk in line. The Republic in The Force Awakens, yes, there was a deleted scene where they sent a character we know there, but it was deleted, and either way, none of the main characters have any connection to the Hosnian system. Point is, from a narrative standpoint, the ideology of the First Order and why they do what they do matters more in The Force Awakens because the First Order isn't really in power yet. They're more of a rogue state, and therefore their task is to rally people to their side with rhetoric, or invade Poland. But they don't. Apparently they just steal babies and raise them under totalitarianism, but don't worry, these kidnapped babies shake their conditioning pretty quickly.
Hey, Finn, huh? Finn, I'm gonna call you Finn, is that alright?
Okay, there was one in episode 7, and there was a group of them in episode 9. That's not really good probability of these babies shaking their conditioning. So
there's not really explained how he how he got rid of his conditioning, or why he's suddenly doing this. And we've got the Finn syndrome, where you just almost immediately turn against you.
Yeah,
you follow the person you've been fighting with, your entire faction, the thing you've been believing in all your life.
We don't know what conditioning they subjected everyone to. We're told they're baby soldiers and raised to be this way. It's like, great. Were like subliminal messages? Was there propaganda? Were there pamphlets? Like, what did they do?
With Finn, like, imagine if your entire worldview was just immediately broken. But, like, imagine how much that would completely fuck with you. But he's the bumbling buffoon, best friend, sidekick comedy character.
I know. How would you become a member of an organization, a military organization, and say, I don't like killing people, but you're conditioned to become a soldier all your life. Were you faking it the entire time? You just wake up one morning and say, I'm not going to do this anymore? Like, it's a very strange... The setup for Finn wasn't very clear. We understood it for the sake of the story, because, like, okay, this guy's going to defect. He's obviously scared and this and that. But it's like, wait, is there a regiment of, like, classical conditioning every morning? Good day, citizen of the First Order. Da 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 da. You're having a welcome day to a glorious freedom of future prosperity for the First Order and to destroy the evil Republic. You're like, oh, like, I would like to have seen something cool like that, something 1984-ish that would be reminiscent of that organization. But there's nothing like that. There's no nuance. It's just he's a stormtrooper.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
No,
like, he should either be like mind blown about the fact that his world's been shattered, or he should still be clinging on to what he's believed for the past few years. Like, no matter what, I don't think he should suddenly be laughing about how he's murdering other stormtroopers, which were just like him and possibly his friends and all that stuff.
Yeah, if you're writing a story, a space opera, a science fiction story about a military group of stolen babies that have been conditioned since birth to become soldiers, you might have a little bit of... You should involve some elements of psychological control, like music, repetition, some sort of slogan, something along those lines. And that Finn is fighting against that, or singing a song and like, why am I doing this? All going through routines he doesn't want to do anymore. Like, something is cracking. You have to show where he's coming from and where he's going. And we never see it. It's just a guy in a stormtrooper outfit who doesn't pull the trigger. That's it. He gets scared. You're like, okay, I get it, but that's all? That's all the First Order is? Just a bunch of people in helmets? And someone reluctant? It's a weak setup for an organization. Whereas you have in the original, well, not episode 4 to 6, it isn't really explained either. But we learn they're all clones. They're all genetically conditioned. They're all programmed from birth as well, with accelerated aging, of course, to be trained as such. We see it. We see the train. There's a whole mini-series, animated, going into that. Like, there's a whole backstory just on the clones. So there's plenty of information on the other sources of Star Wars to understand the Galactic Empire. Nothing about these child soldiers in episode 7 to 9. So if she wanted to talk about fascism and control, she could do a great job with the Clone Wars and episodes 1 to 3, no problem. But she barely talks about it, and there's barely any reference to anything in episode 7.
Well, it's because there's not really much thing you can draw to with the First Orders. There's no kind of world building. There's no world building. There's no building of what the First Order wants. Or what it represents or stands for, other than it's against the Republic and they want the Republic dead.
Oh, really?
It's confusing where they're from and
yeah,
all that. And strangely enough, the reason for wanting to destroy the Republic is the fact that they support the Resistance. But shouldn't the threat of the Republic be the threat of the Republic and not the threat of the Resistance? Because why do you fear the Resistance if the New Republic is the big part that you need to be scared of, and the Resistance is just a tiny cell?
I love that. I love that line from Phasma, the rebel scum line. It's like the rebels against what? Rebelling against the First Order. You're the rebels. You're the ones fighting against the Republic. They're the ones in charge. It's this silly Resistance rebels. It's like JJ forgot the plot. So did Ryan. It's like, what are you guys again? You're the Empire or not? Which one are you?
My point is, the new trilogy incorporates a lot of stuff that is evocative of real-world atrocities without really thinking through the implications of these inclusions or the real-world connotations.
Okay,
they don't destroy the New Republic as a means of maintaining control. It's more of a, we demand to be taken seriously. One that creates a power vacuum that they have ostensibly exploited and filmed by the time of The Last Jedi. guess it's not really clear who is driving. Bear is driving. And the destruction of the Hosnian system works from a dramatic standpoint,
Bear
but
is
it doesn't
driving, why
really
not?
work from a narrative standpoint. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in The Force Awakens, which itself has a bad habit of aping plot points from A New Hope without importing that all-important context. The Empire was in total control.
I gotta know, what context from New Hope were they going for, and what is she what is she talking about?
She's saying that they're taking things from A New Hope without also bringing in the context. And I would somewhat agree, because we somewhat knew what Alderaan was. The Hosnian system isn't even mentioned other than what Poe says much later.
Yes.
So we actually know the name of the planet it's destroying. We know that what the planet is. We know it's Alderaan. We know it's Leia's homeworld. And we see it being destroyed. We see these other planets being destroyed. We don't know fuck all about them.
Yeah, but they blew up 5, not just 1. It was bigger explosions.
Apparently, these 5 planets was the entire New Republic.
It's great.
The entire New Republic was 5 planets.
And they all traveled faster than the speed of light, and we could all see it faster than the speed of light. It was amazing. Amazing graphics there, JJ. Really explained the science fiction part.
There's those lights, red lights in the sky. Do you know, in order to see that, you'd have to be very close to the lasers. I mean, your space is very big, and these lasers, they're much smaller than a planet. So therefore, it'd be very small. You know, stars, like a faraway star, those fucking humongous things. There's such a distance that they are so tiny when you look at them through your eyes from the planet. So how does this laser, which is much smaller than a planet, much more, probably smaller than a moon, tiny, how is that possibly viewable from all over the galaxy?
Fantastic stuff. I love the science in JJ's movies. It's like, yeah, it's there to make explosions. It's there to.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. If we just had lasers in the sky.
We're concerned with the actual science behind this crazy death machine, and Lindsay Ellis is like, well, it doesn't have the context of the first film. It's like, oh, okay, I guess.
And keeping the rabble-rousers in line. The First Order is a rogue state who demands to be taken seriously. But let's take for granted that this is all deliberate. There are 2 things that The Last Jedi introduced which kind of begs one to consider the mechanics of the universe. A, war profiteering.
There's only one business in the galaxy that'll get you this rich.
War.
Selling iPads.
Selling weapons to the First Order.
B, an
iPads. Windows. Doors.
Arguably, wouldn't you make even more money selling to the Republic because they're a lot bigger?
Yeah. You could. There's so many things you can make money from. There are more. Apple is much bigger than any weapons development company.
Yeah, you'd have like thousands, if not millions, of people wanting to buy protection and armor and weapons from wherever. And you'd have maybe 2 or 3 guys from the First Order. It's like, yeah, we got some ships and some guns. Because they spent all that money on a planet to blow up other planets.
No, but not just. Sorry, completely going back to the other thing. There are so many things you can make money from. So many things. More money than selling weapons. Because the thing is, when you're selling weapons, you're often only selling weapons to an organization. Whereas if you are selling things which you have in your everyday home, you are selling millions upon billions, especially if you're selling them to an entire galaxy. What if you're just making cargo liners? What if you just make out of anything? What if you run a cruise liner and you make money from having luxury cruises? What if you make money from a casino planet where people come and to spend their money?
Right. And
there are so many ways to make money. It doesn't make sense that you can only make enough money to be here by selling weapons.
And if the First Order were actually a fascist organization or a communist or socialist, they would actually be taking over industries and saying, okay, you're going to make us weapons and ships and what have you now. We're not spending money on it because we own you. We're taking your guns and we're pointing them at you and saying, make us more guns. So that would be a good explanation or showcase of the First Order getting power, taking over industries, planets, solar systems, sections of the galaxy, and then increasing their military might. That would have been a good development. If they're going to go the route of going to Canto Bight, show the First Order taking it over. That would have worked. It wouldn't have been plot relevant. They'd have to obviously they'd have to write a story for that, but it would showcase that the First Order is gaining more power, and that's how they do it, by being a military force that dominates other planets and steals their tech or steals their economies.
But Smud, there's only one business that's gets you enough money to be here.
Yeah, the First Order are bad fascists. They're businessmen. It's like
OnlyFans is the only thing that's going to get you onto this planet.
Yeah, they're sometimes fascists, but they're mostly just businessmen. They buy ship. They buy stuff from the people who make them weapons. They like them. Okay.
they're investors. They put their money in e-web development.
It's like the what is that? The I'm trying to think of Game of Thrones, the bank. It's like they're just there to fund all the war. They're just like, you want some money? Okay, well, who's going to win the war? We don't know who to invest in. They're just there to supply all the gold. It's great.
Applied caste system with exploited labor, namely child labor, at the bottom. So it's clear what our heroes are
So child labor doesn't
for,
make any sense when you can have droids
in other words,
that you don't
what
need
is
to
the First
feed
Order fighting for?
or
besides
put slavery into.
Fascism.
Okay, if you don't know what fascism is, that's eternal fascism. We'll find out as we go through it.
Fascism has always been difficult to define as an ideology compared to, say, Nazism, itself a form of fascism. Ask the average...
That's even... Okay, Nazis is on top of fascism, so it's even more complicated, but okay, fine.
Person to define fascism, and they probably will not do it accurately, yet we still love using fascist as an insult. People don't really know what fascism is, but they know what it looks like, or is imagined to look like, thanks in part to movies like Star Wars. Umberto Eco's 1995 essay, Ur-Fascism, which you should go read right now, perhaps captures the elusive nature of fascism the most succinctly. According to Eco, the fascist game can be played in many forms, and the name of the game does not change. Fascism does not belong to one nationality, nor religion, nor period of time. However, Eco does outline 14 bullet points in defining fascism. I'm not going to list all of them, but stick to the ones which are relevant with regard to the First Order. An emphasis on, read, cult of, tradition. Exploiting a natural fear of difference. Disagreement is a sign of diversity, and diversity bad. There is no struggle for life, but rather life is lived for struggle. And in such a perspective, everyone is educated to become a hero. In every mythology, the hero...
Okay, so she's cherry-picking these points, and we have to understand this is from a guy who lived in Italy while this was going on. So he's giving us a personal view of the effect of fascism, not the philosophy of fascism. There's a big difference. If you actually read Giovanni Gentile's Doctrine of Fascism, which also has Mussolini in it, you'll understand fascism a little bit better. It's still hard to grasp, but this is why I don't like Eco. I don't mind him. Like he's giving insight into what it was like, but it's like you're talking about two different things. It's like, do you want the philosophy, which is what you're actually asking for, or do you want the guy who's listening and seeing the effect of that philosophy? It's kind of like there's a person talking about how great socialism is, and there's the actual reality of socialism.
There's an idea of a fascist.
Yeah,
something illusory.
We all know the effects of socialism. We know how bad it is, or communism rather. But if we're asking about the ideology, why don't we just go to the philosopher and say, hey, you're the guy who invented it. What is it? And all you have to do is read that book. It's a short book. It's not too big. It is a little difficult.
If you read a fascist book, that's going to make you a fascist.
I know, it's just a strange thing to do. It's like, what is the ideology of America? Well, I'm Canadian, and I can observe the Americans from my vantage point and tell you what I see. It's like, that's fine, but I want to know what it means. Like, where did it come from? Who invented it? I can tell you, Arkansas is kind of crazy. It's like, wait, no, that's not what I want. So I'm not saying Echo's bad or what he's saying is false. I'm saying you're asking the wrong guy.
That guy has some really long hair.
is an exceptional being, but in fascist ideology, heroism is the norm. This cult of heroism is strictly linked with the cult of death. So, on second thought, maybe...
Yeah, as coined by him, by Echo. So what is the cult of death?
I'm confused on how this goes with the First Order. So the idea of looking back in the past, or that's Kylo Ren. Sure, he's looking back at Vader. But that's not the First Order, really. I mean, the First Order doesn't really. They're not all about bringing back old traditional values. Like, no, we're now going to take over the galaxy.
We can't really associate the ideology of the First Order with Kylo Ren. We really can't. His entire story is about he wants to be his granddad. He then gets power, and we don't know what he wants to do with it. We really don't know. He's given even more power in Episode 9. It's like, oh, he's getting more power. It's like, okay. Is that an ideology? No, he's just a tyrant. He's just a guy with power. That's all he is.
The point is, Rob, I don't really think... I don't really think it's the First Order. I don't see it. I don't see where she's coming from with these points, and she's not really bringing up anything specific within the First Order when she does it. She's just throwing up a screenshot of Kylo Ren talking to Vader's mask.
Right.
And like Dev said, he's going to be on a second.
And this is all based off the J.J. Abrams version of Star Wars, which is already a pastiche, which is already a copy. Do you think if there was any information we can go on in the original movies that J.J. would have expanded upon it? I don't think so. He's copying
J.J.
something.
doesn't like expanding upon things.
No, he doesn't make new things. He copies old stuff and puts a new coat of paint on it and explosions and lens flares. That's J.J. Abrams. There's nothing there.
And Force Awakens and Into Darkness are two very good examples of J.J. Abrams films, which are attempts. Pretty much, they're the closest you can get to an older film that he's just trying to take and make it new. Like, he's just taken Khan and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to do the old film, but this time I'm going to have some flashy CGI, and there's going to be action things, and there's going to be this and that, and we're going to get all these old moments in, and oh my god, it's going to be so fucking fantastic. We're going to have the Enterprise rise out of the clouds. We're going to make the Enterprise 70% bigger. And another thing is that so J.J. Abrams, the idea of make a Star Destroyer but bigger, of Starkiller Base, also Death Star, but even bigger and even better. The idea of just making things bigger, it even extends to the Star Trek films he made, because the Enterprise is physically bigger than it used to be. He just says, Enterprise from the original series, that's not big enough. I'm going to make it bigger.
Isn't the engine room a humongous boiler room or something?
Yeah, it's just a huge boiler room for some reason.
Yeah, I'm finally here. Better late than never, I suppose.
Yeah, this is a really hot take of Lindsay trying to wrap her brain around the First Order's political ideology where there is none. I don't think they have one. They're just bad guys. Exactly.
That's it. They're just bad guys.
Same with the original Star Wars. They were the bad empire. It's like that's all we needed to know. That was it.
And where the evil empire had like a Napoleonic era kind of aesthetic, where the First Order they went full Nazi. They had more of a Nazi First Reich aesthetic. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Because the imagery, anyway, the imagery,
like when they're doing the salutes, it's a Hitler salute, but you close the hands to open it.
Right.
And I wonder why they did that. I'm pretty sure it's because they wanted to have a little commentary under there about how everything is being taken over by Nazis or something.
It's purely...
I don't think it was a commentary of everything being taken over by Nazis. I think it's J.J. Abrams' misunderstanding, thinking that the Empire was literally just Nazis, and
that's very likely.
He's just taking it to the extreme of, well, now they're doing Hitler salutes, but with closed hands.
It's surface level stuff. That's all space opera has to be. It doesn't have to be deep. It doesn't have to be politically motivated or explained. It's like, oh, it's a big bad group of people. We get it. Let's go. Let's fly off and get the space battle.
My favorite example of argument being the Empire being Nazis is Imperial soldiers marching, which isn't exclusive to Nazis.
No army marches, right? Only Nazis march.
I was looking at the Queen's Jubilee and all these soldiers marching, and I was like, oh, there's so much fascism here.
I would take the excuse that J.J. Abrams just thought that the Empire was space Nazis, which it could be, but considering how political the Star Wars creators have been, vocally political and vocally partisan as part of American politics, I know there is at least some of it in there where they're trying to make a commentary about how you got to fight Nazis. Now, Glib pointed out before that the attire of the Resistance are basically the Resistance attire of the Russians.
Russia.
Yeah, their outfits are Russian outfits. The comrades.
Well, that's only in The Last Jedi. That's not the outfits they were wearing in Force Awakens, I don't believe.
Is this Force Awakens?
This is Force Awakens we're talking. Well, we're talking about the entire trilogy. As far as I'm aware, when did this video come out? I'll check when this video came out.
I have no idea.
2018. So I believe that's just Force Awakens and Last Jedi.
Yeah, Last Jedi.
But if you're talking about J.J. Abrams specifically.
Oh, J.J. So just J.J. Abrams.
Well,
okay.
no, we're not just talking about J.J. Abrams, but the conversation was more about The Force Awakens and J.J. Abrams, as you mentioned J.J. Abrams by name.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I mean, if you just stick with the First Order themselves, and they have that. There's a whole Nazi, everything's Nazi and everything, Nazi this, Nazi that, going on politically as a slogan for all the leftists or whatever, and it wasn't lost on a lot of people because of a lot of the creators of Star Wars at that time, and probably currently still, were very vocally political, and they wanted to make you know that Star Wars was political. They made Star Wars political, from the slogans to how they tweet on Twitter to, well, basically the shirts they wore, like the Force is female and everything. They made it very notable that the movie was very heavy and agenda driven, very heavy with politics, and it was agenda driven, all that stuff. So even with the J.J. Abrams ones, it was still at least somewhat held back by the agenda stuff. I think he went right along with it, but yeah, to me that was what happened. It was probably part of it was them saying that, hey, it's the Empire. They were just space Nazis in the original trilogy. That was part of it, because that's been like the usual consensus that I've heard from fans. They always refer back to Nazis on that. But I think also it was the politics that was kind of surrounding the projects of Star Wars, like a dense, stenchy fog.
Who's Trevor Noah? That's it. I think Trevor Noah was someone who complained when people started talking about politics in Star Wars. Like, oh no, you're making talking about the fans. Like, oh, you're making Star Wars political now because you're talking about it when it's actually the original material, which is doing things like the Force is female.
And non-original material,
the official material, I should say.
They made it political first. Once you made it political, we're going to talk about it as if it's political.
But then when you start talking about it, Trevor Noah says, no, it's your fault. You're talking about it like that. The Force is female. That's completely fine. When you start having the opposite politics, that's when you're wrong.
They've outright stated that they made the Star Wars political. They've stated that many times. They say everything's political, and they've shown us that that's the case as far as they're concerned.
And Lindsay Ellis's other evidence for the Empire being Nazis was the scene at the end of New Hope where you have the rebellion standing on both sides, and you have this big open line in the middle as you have the Han and Nat walking forwards as to get their medals.
Oh, the medals, yeah.
Yeah. She just took a picture. She had another picture of Nazis. Again, just lying down the middle, soldiers standing on each side. It's like, obviously, this means Nazis.
The Nazis did it. Therefore, it's Nazis.
But, you can just have a line of people, and then, they do this in,
everywhere. There's arms.
Yeah, school assemblies. In my school assembly, they had people stand, had a big line down the middle, and then they had people stand on either side, and then they had someone up on stage talking to them as people could walk down the middle to and from when it was their time to go up on stage. Nazis
No, Shiny. Nazis did it. Therefore, it was obviously the movie showing us that Nazis are good or something. Obviously.
All right, we got 2 super chats. We're going to keep on going. John Lemley, I had to step away for 20 minutes. I got a sense I missed some truly big brain points Lindsay brought that all prove her arguments irrefutably. I don't know if they were points, as aside from just referencing ideas.
She hasn't made many arguments, and not many and when she has tried to make an argument, there's not really been much evidence behind it, or the evidence has been not very strong.
It's just pure aesthetics so far. It's just like, yeah, we know there's nothing there, Lindsay. We get it. Why would you make a video about discovering nothing? Like, if I spent an hour or two, or maybe a day, researching a movie and saying, where did they get this idea? Where is it? And I spent all these articles, talked to people or people on set that design these things. Yeah, we know. We just like the way it looked. That's it. There's no philosophy. It's like, oh, okay. Hey guys, there's no philosophy. I won't make this video, so don't worry about it. But
Sean, remember that ProZD video where it's about anime, my anime fans, where there's this guy where ProZD at the beginning, he's representing a guy. He says, I don't like this anime. It has too much fan service in it. And then the anime fan bursts through the wall or bursts through the door and says, actually, it's actually really deep. And this scene with a boob window is about her inner soul. And the scene over here is about the breastfeeding scene from Grapes of Wrath. And then you cut to the actual guy who created the anime. He's like, I just want to see titties. I just want to see titties. Yeah, it's like that. That always reminds me. Every time we see a defense of TLJ, or every time we see these people trying to extract Nazi ideology or make this franchise fascist somehow. That's what I always see. Look, they stand up and they're information, therefore they're Nazi. They're trying to tell us all these things about Nazis and trying to push an ideology on us because of this specific imagery that I'm just looking way too much into. And see that little thing in the background? They did that on purpose, therefore Nazi. And then you can probably get to the creators and then say, "Nah, I just want to put it in there. Look cool." That's basically it.
This whole video was started when Lindsay she went to Disneyland and they had the stormtroopers marching and they had the stormtrooper demonstration. And then she said, "It's amazing how Disney gets away with so much fascism of you're putting fascist merchandise on socks and school bags and all this stuff."
Yeah, and it's cool. I mean,
it's talking cool about imagery. It's like people actually think like fascism is at the front of their minds when they're looking at these marching stormtroopers. I may as well point that they are first order stormtroopers in Disneyland, not the actual stormtroopers.
Lindsay Ellis, I have to say that real life is not fiction, and fiction is not real life. People are not actually supporting Nazis and fascism if they buy merchandise with a stormtrooper helmet on it. It doesn't work that way.
I think she admitted that it wasn't problematic, but she said she found it interesting how people were taught like having fascism like this.
It's not interesting though.
It's not even like people don't play a video game because you don't play Doom because you want to be a space marine in real life. Like you don't actually want that. You just do it because it's fun.
Fascism is not people marching. Fascism is an ideology. It's an ideology you have.
People who play Call of Duty don't really want to be thrown into an actual war.
How exactly does watching a bunch of people march convince you that fascism is good?
I don't think she's making the argument. I think she was more talking about like just how they get away with it or something.
Get away with what? Having people march?
The fact, I don't know. You'd have to go back to the beginning of the video, which is 13 minutes. I don't think we want to do that.
No, that's
to get
okay.
the full context.
Yeah,
but
10 minutes to go through.
She's not really arguing that it's like bad in any way. She just says it's interesting how they get away with this fascism. Not that it's harmful. I think she said that she doesn't think it's harmful or needs to be not done.
Well, they get away with it because it's not fascism. That's probably why.
All right, here's 2 more. John Lemley, hot take: Tarantino's 1930s Earth gangster idea would be better Star Trek film than what J.J. Abrams put out. Yeah, I would like to see a Tarantino take on science fiction, whether it's Star Trek or otherwise.
I think we talked about that before.
Else would be better than J.J. Abrams.
Tarantino Star Trek would be interesting. That'd be pretty interesting. We have Cisco in there, Cisco's dad in there, and Worf, and it was pretty cool. The scenario we came up with.
Yeah, well.
Wait, what?
Anything with Worf would be fun.
Get Tarantino and Worf together, and we'll have something awesome, probably.
Worf is cool because he's a really great warrior, but he's very reluctant to go to war because he's in Starfleet. So he has the peaceful solution, but he just wants to pull the trigger. He's just like,
we come in peace, shoot to kill.
I suggest just torpedoes, Captain.
Let me shoot the warp core, Captain.
No, that's the Worf standard, the Bajoran guy. Worf would never say that.
I found out that there's another quote from him that we talked over in Lower Decks, where his solution to solving the zombie problem was blowing up the warp core. So they've made it like an actual part of his character where every 5 minutes he wants to destroy a warp core for some reason.
Destroy a warp core somehow. It's like he killed his parents.
He wants to destroy his own warp core. It doesn't matter if it kills him, like anyone else. He just wants to destroy warp cores.
Here's
great character, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, giant old man Bajoran. Yeah, that's so Skaven. Thank you, sir. Guys, you don't get an Attack of the Clones. It was all about men fighting CIS droid army, aka Russian bots, and the First Order are clearly Nazis. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you see, the Republic is democratic, and they are all the clones. They are all the same. They are the NPCs. So, therefore, I'm failing at this. The droids are Russian bots, and it's progressives versus Russian bots.
Oh dear, that's a horrible analogy.
I had to work. I had to work really hard to make that analogy, and it didn't come out at the other end very well.
Oh, jeez. Okay, I see what you did there. Okay, Taker 610. Man, The Last of Us 2 told us that Abby mashism is bad. Oh, Abby smashism is bad. Yeah, violence bad. Unless Abby does it, then it's okay. If Ellie does it, then it's bad.
No, unless Fat Geralt does it, because Fat Geralt is fucking god.
Punch a 13-year-old girl or a 12-year-old girl in the face, deck her on the side of a garage door. That's how you do it. That's how you win battles, guys. Smack him in the head.
Not fighting what you hate, but punching what you love.
There you go. All right, we got 10 minutes to go.
Please don't take that out of context.
This indefinite ideology of the First Order speaks to it being fascist, in spite of the fact that we literally know nothing about
fluid
what it is the
ideology
First Order actually wants. You know, besides.
What?
What's a fluid ideology? And what has that got to do with
Kylo
fascism?
Ren, you quilt of rage.
How is the
You
First Order a
amalgamate
fluid
every bad boy
ideology, whatever
cliché,
fluid ideology
all wrapped
is?
in a selfish ideology and scaffolded by space fascists.
What selfish ideology does Kylo Ren have? Anyone? I can't think of an ideology. He's like power. He wants power. Is that it? He's an usurper. I don't get it. Like, what are you talking about, Lindsay?
People wanted power before fascism was invented.
I don't get it. He's a guy with Sith powers. He likes killing people. That's about it. John Lindley.
He likes being a little whiny bitch.
Yeah. There's a really great series of videos from someone who I forget the name of that argues the Empire not only did nothing wrong, but were the good side. Okay. They technically were from the Republic, so that it was a natural, it came from democracy that they were formed.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know enough about them aside from they are on every planet, as every government was.
I would have to listen to the arguments, but it's going to be very difficult to make an argument that an organization which likes to blow up planets and commits genocide is actually the good guy.
Yeah, once you go genocide, that's a big no-no.
Yeah, though the idea of the Empire, like people in the Empire itself, not being bad guys and just running a government, that's not necessarily. I don't think those people are bad.
Yeah, you can compare them to like ancient Rome, where they had all these facilities, all these military presence, all the things they did to uplift life, and like kill people as well.
All these other people, it's like, okay, well, this is Jeff. You see, he helps the elderly in the Empire. He works the Imperial Retirement Home.
Okay.
And do you see Steve over here? he actively volunteers in his part-time while he's also a stormtrooper. It's just really people just running a government. I think I could really believe that the stormtroopers are just people that grew up on Imperial planets and then wanted to serve like any other soldier and believes that the rebels are actually terrorists, and everything they've seen would lead them to believe that the rebels are terrorists because of the Empire's propaganda. And this is something that, from what I've been told, is kind of brought up in the Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad novel, where you get, from the Imperial perspective, you realize that they actually see the rebels as terrorists. They don't see them as rebels. They don't see them as the good guys. From their point of view, they're evil because of their perspective that they have grown up with.
From my point of view, the rebels are evil.
Yeah.
The rebels, do commit terrorist attacks. So
there you go.
Quite literally, terrorist attacks.
From a certain point of view.
Well, I don't think you can get around it. They are like causing hit and run terrorist attacks.
What else could they do? They're not very big.
For good, I don't know. For good, like reasons, like fighting for their freedom, sure. But like other people just see rebels hurting people, and they think, oh my, the rebels are bad. Obviously, Iden Versio thinks rebellions are built on hate.
Yeah, they kind of are. Not really built on hope. They're more built on hate. If you look at actually real rebellions, rebellions tend to be formed around, I really hate the government or something, so we're going to rebel.
The French Revolution.
The American Revolution. The Russian Revolution.
The French Revolution was always... it's all about love.
Yeah.
The French Revolution was built on hate.
That's why that's why it's called, the reign of love. That's why it ended up in the reign of love, because people were able to, the Jacobins were able to manipulate everyone's endless of love.
They were hopefully and lovingly cutting those heads off.
And so Iden Versio was right. I mean, I'm pretty sure that rebellions are built on hate, but that's not a bad thing. I like that they demonize hate, but hate is a natural human emotion. It's there for a reason. It's not always a bad thing.
If someone punches you, steals your money, fucks your wife, those are all reasonable reasons for hating someone.
I'm pretty sure if you ask a leftist, do you hate Nazis? They would say yes, and they would not think it's a bad thing.
Here's Mr. X. Remember Rogue One writer tweeting, "Empire is a white supremacist human organization." I do.
Yes, I remember that exactly. I often go remember that exact, or not exact, but I remember that statement being made every time I watch the movies, because that's proof to me, a reminder to me, that they intentionally made these movies, these current Star Wars movies, political. Yeah, it's not just conjecture. They've actually come out and stated that's the case, and that's one of the statements I always go to remind myself that is the case.
Obviously, Grand Admiral Thrawn, the Chiss, who is a blue man, is the biggest human supremacist.
It is internalized oppression.
Thrawn has internalized oppression.
Internalized racism or something. Yeah, it's actually something real that they argue. With women who don't side with feminism, it was internalized misogyny. That's actually what they say. It's not me. It's actually what they say.
Here's John Lemley. Thanks again. Kylo Ren's fascist ideology consists of thinking Anakin actually had the real high ground and wanting Darth Vader's apartment that oversees the park. Oh.
Luke was hit with a wave of sheer panic when he realized that Darth Vader's apartment overlooked the park was obviously more expensive than his. Although Vader could probably do 1,000 crunches, I don't think Luke Skywalker actually could.
He could do them with his mind.
Well, that's because his torso is now robotic. All his motors.
Just presses a button.
He could probably do infinite crunches.
Just doot, 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 doot. Amazing. That's his morning workout routine. He gets up, does infinite crunches, then says, that's enough infinity for one lifetime.
Save him, Rey. You know you want to.
It isn't too late.
Save him. So Kylo Ren is the epitome of
Chipper.
everything that is fascist but fanficky about the First Order. Kylo
What?
does not have an ideology outside of the ideology of the self, which
What?
puts...
He has no ideology, but he's the epitome of everything fascist. Okay.
Wait.
So is there a difference between ideology and ideology? Because she keeps flipping between the two.
I don't like what you. Let me just rewind that. That did not make any sense. Let's go back.
It must be something.
It isn't too late.
Save him. So Kylo Ren is the epitome of everything that is fascist but fanficky about the First Order. Kylo does.
Okay, so he's the embodiment of everything fascist. How? You haven't explained that. She said he's a hero in the concept that that's one of the Umberto Eco's rules that he's observed. There's a rule. You have to be a hero for your country, but that means anyone could be a hero. He could be the hero of his own story, which is what we do with villains. You write.
Isn't that the message of modern Star Wars? Anyone can be a hero.
Yes, essentially. Episode 8 sort of brings that out. So this is not necessarily a fascist thing. It's a heroic thing, or being a leader and taking charge, believing in whatever you believe in. But you haven't told us what he believes in.
You don't even know what the first Order believes in.
Yeah, it's like, what are you talking about?
The only thing we know about the First Order is that they want to take over everything. They're basically your stock villain from any superhero, like any mad scientist. What do you want to do? Take over the world, of course.
An ideology outside of the ideology of the self, which puts him somewhat at odds with real-world fascists. You can't.
What does that mean, the ideology of the self? What is she talking about? What, the egocentric ideology? A selfish one? Like what are you talking about?
Personal ideology? Isn't that like less fascism and more like individualism?
Yeah, that would be against fascism. That'd be liberal democracy. You'd want everyone to have a say, including your own, as opposed to fascism, where it's the group or the Führer, the guy in charge, who is the spirit of the group. If you want to go that far, I don't know, Lindsay. You're losing me here.
Can't have a cult of heroism if you don't particularly care about being a hero.
If you've ever run...
He's just angry and likes killing people. That's all we know. He hates Luke, so he wants to take it out on everyone else.
I don't even know his motivation, really.
What is the Empire and the First Order got to do with a cult of heroism?
That's one of the elements that she cherry-picked, essentially, from Umberto Eco's list of what he thinks fascism is as he lived through it, which is fine. But that's not the philosophy of fascism. That's just the effect. It's silly. You could say the same thing of any group or organization where you admire someone or admire what you're doing or like what you're doing. You want to be a hero to the cause. You believe in that thing. Same thing with someone joining the military. I want to fight for freedom. I want to believe in liberty. I want to spread democracy. Whatever. You could be the hero of whatever. In the context of a story, we do the same thing with our villains. We want the villain to be not the anti-hero. We want them to be against the hero and thus be the hero of their own story. They think it's their story. They're the ones with all the power. They're the ones getting all the gold, doing all the amazing things, defeating the actual hero until it's too late. So it's just like, Lindsay, where are you going? You can't just call Kylo Ren from the hero of the group, or everyone's a group hero in fascism, and say this is the one hero. It's like, no, this is the villain of the story, Ellis. You're really stretching this.
Run into any identitarians, you may note that when they do tend to fall to the dark side, they also tend to adhere to a certain set of ideologies, usually having to do with race, nationality, protecting the people from some amorphous foreign threat, and white women being obedient broodmares.
What?
Okay, but that's
dark side?
not in Star Wars. That's
not in Star Wars.
That's not the dark side. That's not the Empire. That's not the First Order. What are you talking about now?
I don't think I've ever heard of a Darth. Like in the movies or TV shows that rested on race and stuff. They usually just want power. It's usually what the Sith are based on.
That I don't think what she's saying is A, out of nowhere, and B, I don't think it's necessarily true. It's very bizarre. It kind of feels like what a more social justice perspective idea of this would be fascism.
I hope she's talking about like a philosophy in the real world, not Star Wars, because that would make more sense. But she's not connecting the two. She hasn't even, because there's nothing to connect. Like, we know there's no philosophy, but she's reaching, and you're like,
Can we just listen to it again?
sure.
Not sure why I'm asking.
Hero. If you've ever run into any identitarians, you may note that when they do tend to fall to the dark side, they also tend to adhere to a certain set of ideologies, usually having to do with race, nationality, protecting the people from some amorphous foreign threat, and white women being obedient broodmares. But all it really does—
Really? Identitarians. Let's actually look up what identitarian means, so we know what the hell we're talking about.
Also, those traits don't just attach to fascism or fascists.
Okay.
That you can easily attach to the progressives as well, as they're bringing back segregation and so forth.
Okay, the identitarian movement or identitarianism is a post-World War II European far-right political ideology asserting the right of Europeans and peoples of European descent to culture and territories claimed to belong exclusively to them. Okay, that's a mouthful. Originating in France, building on ontological ideas, all right, of modern German philosophy. Its ideology was formulated from the 1960s onward by essayists such as considered the movement's intellectual leaders. All right, that's fine.
I'm not quite sure what that has to anything to do with anything.
This is like
she just says identitarians just like offhandedly, while also kind of putting all these far right ideas into just one tiny package of what she imagines them to be.
This is well after what the idea she's looking for, which is Italy and Germany fascism.
Mm-hmm.
This is like 15, 20 years later. So it's like you're talking about another group, how they would look at women and property and all this other stuff. It's like, that's fine. Why are you bringing this up? This is not your argument. This is not in the movie. This has nothing to do with anything that you were talking about previously. So I want to see her point and why she brought this up, because it's getting silly now.
Does this give a sense of purpose to this sort of amorphous rage felt by the fascist, which the fascist power structure can now exploit? The relationship between Snoke and Kylo Ren actually illustrates this really well.
Okay, so now she's associating Snoke and Kylo Ren with the identitarians? Is Snoke an identitarian? And
I don't think so.
And Kylo is the fascist?
I think they just want power.
We don't get enough of Snoke to know what he believes or wants.
The only thing I think he believes in is taking power or like taking over the galaxy.
Yeah, he's just a Sith. He's a Sith. Like the Sith that's what the Sith tend to want. They want power and control over things. They don't really have like a racist agenda or our land should just be for Sith or something ideology. It's just, we want everything. Give it to us now.
Okay, she's really confusing things. I don't know why. It's like me bringing up, I think the ideology of the Jedi are based off Taoist principles, but I also really think it's also associated with Greek philosophy. It's like, well, that has nothing to do with Taoism. Why are you bringing that up? So it's like she's going further, and I'm like, I don't know why you're doing this. You're making it way too complicated.
This is also why Kylo Ren disposes of Snoke so easily.
What? He played a trick with him with the lightsaber because of his ideology. I don't think so.
That's the nature of the Sith. What is it? There should be only two: a master to have the power and an apprentice to crave it. It's the nature, and Palpatine even knows this. He plays off of this. It's the nature of the Sith to crave power, and so if you go back to Darth Bane and stuff like that, that's where it came from.
Oh no, but she's saying specifically that like Kylo takes over because of this ideology,
but he doesn't though, because they have no ideology.
It doesn't.
That's just the nature of the Sith. That's what I mean.
They're not even Sith. Kylo's not. I mean, they may as well be Sith, but they're not actual Sith.
That's the nature of the dark side, or dark side users, I guess. The treachery is part of it. You have the master who holds the power, then you have the apprentice who will try to kill the master, but must obey the master until such time has arrived. So it's just a natural progression of things, of Kylo Ren taking down Snoke. It's a natural progression. Like Snoke probably knew that this was going to happen. That's why they're always so careful. So when Kylo Ren kills Snoke, it's not really because of an ideology or anything like that. It's because it's the nature of the dark side users, the rule of two, that he was supposed to kill the master should he ever come to a point where he could exceed him somehow.
The argument doesn't measure up. The conclusion doesn't match what she's putting forward. So it's like saying, well, the reason why Trump also let's say well, the things you look at with European cultures is the idea of the betterment, the betterment of society, and then you take that betterment of society and you shove it up your ass, and this is why Trump has been elected for power. So what do you mean? What was Scott? You're just saying a bunch of nonsense at this point. It doesn't really mean anything, and then you just come to a conclusion and act like that conclusion is the truth. Like, of course, this is the conclusion where this is the reason why Snoke gets chopped in half when you don't actually show the reason why he gets chopped in half. You just say it is after rambling on about something else unrelated. That doesn't make any sense.
Here's Taker 610. Kylo's creed, the big-nosed are the rightful rulers. Ooh, well, I don't know if that's a shot at the actor, Adam Driver, or trying to think of other big-nosed fellows in the First Order. I can't really imagine them, but...
Once more, the whiny man-babies will rule the galaxy. First it was the whiny man-baby of Anakin Skywalker from the movies. Now it's Kylo Ren.
I have a question. So, do you know what? Do you two know what Trump means in English? It's like to British people, at least. I don't know what it means to everyone else.
What, the word Trump or the
I
name?
mean, yeah, the word Trump. The word.
You mean best? That's what it means, like to best.
It means fart.
Oh.
Trump is fart here in the UK.
Usually we use it over here. Not talking about Trump himself, but the Trump card.
Right.
Taking out your best stuff, your secret weapon.
Yeah, it's
basically Trump means secret weapon or something.
It's a card in bridge as well. I mean, I haven't played bridge in a while, but that's, you have your Trump cards for when to play. But yeah, it's usually referred to the card games. So anyway, let's keep going.
His ideology doesn't matter.
Doesn't have
so
one.
Obviously the First Order doesn't need to
Yeah, it's good, 'cause
real
it didn't have one.
fascists in order to have their own brand of fictional fascism. Maybe
It's not.
instead of the cultural Marxists masterminding multiculturalism, they're scapegoating aliens or something. Those goddamn Wookiees are taking our jobs. A
What?
scapegoat for some social problem, real or imagined, is integral for the rise of fascist
I
power.
don't think
That
at any
undercurrent
point
is
of
there
Star
in some of
Wars
the
that they've
extended-
made a thing of Wookiees taking jobs.
Oh, yeah, it was a joke. I think. Pretty sure.
I know it's a joke, but like, there's nothing like that. There is no aliens taking our jobs.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that I think she's reading way too much into this.
Yeah.
Well, she's trying to equate that the rise of fascism comes about because of socialism, but it's actually as a result of liberal democracy. And,
This is just all fucking nonsense.
well, if you actually want to read about how fascism comes about, at least the original, like Italian and then German and then Japanese, like that's the three main ones. And then you can go into all like French and like Dutch and all the other ones too. It's the attack on liberal socialism, saying it's not strong enough. It's not socialist enough, essentially. That's why when you read the stuff that Gentile is proposing, it's a mix of things, but it's mostly centered around bigger government. So liberal democracy, which we have in the West, essentially, in various formats, whether it's a parliament or a republic, it's the same idea. Everyone gets a voice. And Gentile says, no, this is not good. You need to be one voice, and that has to be focused. So it's not, when you actually read that part of he's talking about two forms of democracy. There's liberal democracy, and there's something which he calls, I can't remember what it was. It was like the true democracy, like the real version of democracy, which is actually a French concept. And he takes that idea, and he says, this is what will solve the problems. And the problem he wants to solve, he uses corporatism. If everything's controlled by the state, you will eliminate all the problems of whatever economic issues there are, whether it's communist or corporatist or free market. So he wants the state in control of things. The only difference that I can see from an economic standpoint between fascism and socialism is fascism gives you property rights provided everything you do is for the state, whereas socialism doesn't give you property rights, and everything you do is for the commune or the state anyway. There's very little difference, economically at least. Well, so if you look at communism with Russia, they kill the farmers, but that's details.
I don't think this video's. I don't think it was worth covering, and it's funny how the two people who wanted to cover it aren't even here.
Yeah, well, I know a little bit about the topic, so I was like, okay, I can say some stuff, but this is just like, Lindsay, where are you going?
It's all just nonsense, and again, it's just saying things and then saying a conclusion, and then the adage doesn't equal your conclusion that you're talking about.
She's just basically Renegade Cut again. Just here's some Star Wars in the background while I give a political rant.
She's a less serious.
So there was much more to say about Renegade Cut.
The Renegade Cut's like kind of like, okay, and this is what happened in the book 1968. It was published by this guy, and it was talking about how the Bolsheviks were really the good guys. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, but Lindsay's kind of.
We had a hell of a lot to say when it came to Renegade Cut video on Star Wars fascism and all that shit.
Yeah, but
because it was more extreme, yeah, but there was a lot more to say and talk about.
Lindsay was, at least she's kind of half joking because she's realizing this isn't a serious topic, but she's trying to make it serious, and she's referencing stuff, and you're like, Lindsay, this isn't in the movie. I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's not in the movie. It's not in the character. It's not there. So now she's referencing books. It's like, all right, now what? Is there fascism in the books? Let's find out.
Some of the extended books, particularly the original Thrawn trilogy.
Just as a question, have you ever seen these three novels? Read these books?
No.
Get the audio novels. Or just get the books. Just get them. They're good.
Oh, really? Okay.
They could get them.
Canon, and that still doesn't shed any light on what the First Order wants or believes. The closest in this new canon we've seen to actually exploring the ideology of the First Order was the book Bloodline by Claudia Gray, wherein the divide in the new liberal republic is between the populists and the centrists. And in the Star Wars universe, those words do not mean at all what they mean in our universe. So this gets really confusing. The pre-First Order political divide in the Star Wars universe is more akin to the political divide between Alexander Hamilton's Federalists and Thomas Jefferson's Democratic Republicans, with Princess Leia on the Jeffersonian side as a populist. Again, this term does not mean what it means in our political discourse, and it's really confusing.
Can't do that.
And with her on-again, off-again rival.
Okay, so why in the book? Why are they using this? I've never read Bloodline. I'm not gonna read that fucking shit. But what's the point in you putting these real world terms in there if you're not going to use the real world? I don't even think they should use the real world terms. Use a Star Wars term. You're in fucking Star Wars. They use the word blaster instead of gun. They use I don't know. Just think of one now. They use droid instead of robot. They use Star Warsy words and terms. Centrist and Federalist are very. Oh, mine. I don't know. What I'm talking.
It's kind of silly to use words that have different meanings.
Yeah.
It's especially when you're talking about politics, which is not exactly the clearest and easiest topic to get, and to focus on that in a novel about Star Wars is already a bad idea. It's like, okay, let's make this a political intrigue story with Star Wars. We're going to have some blasters in the second scene, but the first scene is going to be all about politics. It's like, okay.
Not to mention how you're going to the book. You're literally going to the fucking novelization to actually try and get anything on the First Order.
Which is not about the First Order, because it's Leia's in there. So it's like, okay, well, this is still the Republic. So I'm sorry. There's no First Order yet. She did her research. She found nothing. She admits she finds nothing. And she still ran with it. She made this video. This is what blows my mind. If I did research, I said, oh, there's nothing here. I won't make a video about anything because there's nothing to talk about. She did it anyway. 1.6 million views. Bravo, Lindsay. You know your audience.
Sterfo on the Hamiltonian side as a centrist. He wants a stronger central government. I wish they had chosen different names. The populists are more like a states' rights crowd. They want the planets to be more autonomous, and the centrists favor a stronger central government. And no one realizes that a fair chunk of the Hamiltonian centrists are actually closet fascists. And like with the prequels, there is some mundane conflict.
Yeah, I don't trust her terminology anymore. I don't think she knows what it means.
Okay, so they want okay, so the one central, okay, the idea of centralist in that is they want a centralized government, and that is fascist. And then the other ones want more autonomy when it comes to individual systems. So it is, from my understanding, the basic idea of left and right, where the left is the idea of more control and the right is the general idea of less control. And the funny part is that she's putting the left on the idea of the fascist.
Well, if you actually look at I was said before about, like, it's pretty obvious. All you do is read history. Mussolini was a socialist. He was part of the Italian Socialist Party. He wrote in 3 socialist papers at the time.
I find it funny that she herself is putting the left on the side of the fascist.
That's because they are.
Or the generalized idea. No, but the generalized idea of the fascist anyway. Oh, sorry, the general idea, the generalized idea of what is left and right. Because obviously it's not as complicated as more control and less control. But that is putting it down to the very general ideas of the two sides of the political spectrum. That is generally what they're for. Right. Usually,
we associate the left with more government control, which is fascist. It's also socialist. It's also communist. But because Mussolini was socialist, because Hitler was socialist, I can't really know where Gentile is coming from, but a lot of the things he says are like mostly socialist, but a lot of it's also individualist. It's kind of hard to grasp Gentile because he's a philosopher mostly. But even the founder of, or the grandfather of fascism was socialist. So all these elements are there. You just have to read history. It's like, who is this guy? Oh yeah, he believed in this. Okay, great. That's it. It's very simple. Anywho, let's get some super chats going. I don't think we're going to get much more out of this video. She's already losing me, and she's rambling on about other books that aren't related to this topic.
So. Just closet fascists as well.
Yeah, and she herself did not know the definition of a term, and now she's quoting Umberto Eco, which is not the best definition of a term, who didn't invent the term. It's like, Lindsay,
just calling people closet fascists is
that's
bizarre.
Wrong. Don't call anyone a fascist, guys. That's stupid. It's just a silly term to use.
Especially you're saying, oh, you're just a closet fascist. You want to be a fascist. Is that what someone said to Glib as well? Like, Glib Facsimile? You just want to call yourself Glib the fascist, but you didn't really want to call yourself a fascist.
That's what he said. Someone said to him. You just want to call yourself a fascist, but you didn't want to be too overt about it. So you call yourself facsimile and not fascist. Yeah. Learn what words mean. Facsimile is an actual word, okay? It's not just a stand-in for fascist. It's not even close.
So here's a dead slash. They use parsec as a unit of time. That was a mistake on Lucas's part in episode 4.
But then it's still
they ran with it in Solo. I know
they ran with it, and it's still a measurement of distance. Though originally, he was trying to use it as a measurement of time, but since then they have used it as a measurement of distance instead. Yeah. I mean, you made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, as in you did it in like a smaller distance.
But look, I mean, it's coming from Han Solo, so even if it was a Lucas mistake, it fits with the character of Han Solo because it's basically like a salesman tactic, right? It's he's trying to sell his services in that scene to Luke and Kenobi.
Though we didn't read the backstory of the Kessel Run, and
no, we really didn't. I think it was just his whole thing when he was trying to sell his services to Kenobi and Luke. It was just like a salesman technique. So it sounds cool, and it's kind of like a thing where they say something that sounds cool, but it's not. If you look into it, it's complete rubbish. But so he might not have known that parsecs were like Han Solo might not have known that parsecs were. I
do know specifically in Clone Wars they do before Solo. Obviously, they still use parsec as a measurement of distance.
Yeah, but Han Solo might not have known that. Like I did Kessel Run 12 parsecs. So it sounds cool, and of course to a country like backwater bumpkin like Luke, who's educated.
Parsec is.
Yeah, he doesn't know what a parsec is, and Han Solo probably knows that. He's a scoundrel. I
wouldn't know what the word parsec meant unless it wasn't for Star Wars and people pointing out that it's a measurement of distance.
Exactly. He's a pilot, but he might not know what all that means. But he's a pilot. It doesn't mean he knows what a parsec is. And he's a backwater guy he's a farm boy, like from nowhere. So obviously he would be probably enchanted by the fact that, oh, cool, that sounds cool. He did in 12 parsecs. That sounds cool. I don't want to. Also, it's the fact that I don't want to expose my ignorance and ask him what's a parsec. So he's playing on that too. It's a kind of a psychological technique that he was using. At least it could be argued that way in a very reasonable manner, and that sticks with the character of Han Solo. So it's not that bad. But I mean, it is a mistake, I guess, on Lucas' part, like officially. But it's not really that bad if you put in the context of Han Solo and what he was trying to do in that scene.
Good point. All right. One more super chat from John Lemley. Thank you, sir, for the large contribution. Had to step aside for a bit, so sorry if this was mentioned already, but fascism, like many movements, manipulate heroism as an incentive to achieve difficult but attainable goals. The only sides do this explicitly are the rebels and the resistance.
John Lemley, it's just a question. How much money do you have just to keep throwing away on streams?
John Lemley is Taiwan Wiseau.
Yeah, he's telling me.
It's been confirmed. It's like it's infinite money just at hand. Have you ever seen Disaster Artist? Where they like he doesn't the director does not know if he's gonna get paid because the check was good. It's like this is ridiculous. There's no way this guy has the money to do all this. And then the banker's like, "This between you and me, his account is a bottomless pit of money."
Where does he get it from?
Nobody knows.
He's such a mysterious guy.
A lot of money as well.
The amount of reshoots they did for the room, yeah.
He's a fucking alien. A fucking alien.
All right, we got 6 more minutes of Lindsay Ellis trying to tell us.
Do we really want to finish this though? Because it's all just nonsense.
Well, it's not that bad. She's just selling silly things, but it's not.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
She's made about 4 or 5 bunny air quotes.
It's like someone trying to get 2 different jigsaw puzzles and trying to fit them together, smashing the pieces in there as hard as you can.
It's like it's like she gets a scissor and she cuts one of the parts of the jigsaw puzzle in. And it fits now. There we go.
No, it still doesn't fit. Maybe because you've got 2 big holes where the jigsaw piece was supposed to go.
Yeah. Here's Goodman 4. Hello, sorry you have to watch. This was voted on. I do whatever I'm given, so it's not a big deal for me. And it's a lot better than honestly. This is a lot better than Mundane Matt.
Dunn,
this is so much better.
Was it Dunn and Glib who voted for this, and they're not here? Glib is asleep, and Dunn is busy doing something else.
That's true. Here's John Lemley. Boulder Man was worse, so this can be excused. Exactly. This is like a palate cleanser from yesterday. Also, at least her voice is easier to listen than Renegade Cut. This is true.
Yeah, Renegade Cut always has like the really soft voice all the time, and he talks really slowly.
And why is he talking so softly? He's like, dude, just speak up, be passionate, say something you believe in. You obviously are.
So he doesn't want to offend you. He doesn't want to offend anybody. It's safe space culture. Safe space. Got to be safe space. Got to have a safe space.
It must be a voice he puts on. It must be because it's a voice so many people put on for YouTube.
And the people who tend to put on the soft voice tend to be from that end of the political spectrum. Like all fascism is evil.
Well, there is kind of like the idea of putting on a voice, because I remember when, like, I didn't even do it intentionally when I first started. When I first started the interviews with Rags and Smud and LiteratureDevil, I had to re-record all my questions because I didn't like the mic quality originally, and I had to re-record them. And I just, whenever I was speaking into the mic, like I was on a YouTube video, I just put on, I can't even do it now, but I just put on this voice without even thinking. And it wasn't until I showed it to someone. It says, why are you trying to sound American? It's like, wait, I'm trying to sound American? It's like, yeah, it sounds like you're trying that. And it's like, oh, wait, I suppose you're right. I am putting in this voice. Why am I putting on this voice? And then just naturally, I kind of got more used to doing my natural voice. And I suppose maybe YouTubers get kind of, maybe they start with that voice. They don't realize they're doing the voice. And because they become popular, they keep doing the voice.
I commend you on trying to sound American, trying to sound smarter and better than average YouTuber. But sounding American is the best way to do that, yeah.
On stream, I remember, I don't think it was someone from our audience, it was someone else who found my channel, said I sounded like Ewan McGregor.
Really?
I know that.
Apparently.
Maybe he's never heard a British man speak before. It's like, oh, wow, this guy must be from another part of the world.
Ewan McGregor. Oh no, I think it was. I don't know. James Arnold Taylor. Actually, it just said Obi-Wan, but I think he probably referring to James Arnold Taylor.
All right. Okay.
You sound like Obi-Wan. Which maybe I should take that as a compliment.
Yeah, Obi-Wan's cool. To me, Obi-Wan's like the.
Yeah,
to me,
cool.
Obi-Wan should have been the real main character of the prequel trilogy, not Anakin. Anakin should have still fallen, of course, but it should have been like a Watson Holmes sort of scenario.
I don't like Anakin. He's coarse and he's rough.
And he gets everywhere. He gets everywhere.
What are the ketchup references in chat for? I think they're talking about Lindsay Ellis's lipstick. I don't know. I wish I could tell you. I just
that is a very abrasive color lipstick. Yeah,
chat is its own beast. We don't question the chat.
You guys can make any jokes you want. We don't mind. It's okay.
The chat just has its own conversation. We're just talking about the video, and then you'll just have people talking. Just, how was your day? Oh yeah, it was really good. How are you doing? Yeah, it's like, oh yes, I found a watermelon. Then just having this big long conversation about watermelons.
Oh, they're looking at the top left of the screen. There's a Heinz bottle, which is not the appropriate way to store ketchup, guys. You put it in the fridge. Yes, It has more sugar than ice cream. Still, you keep it in the fridge, okay?
Why is there a Heinz bottle? Did you just use ketchup that regularly that she needs it on hand at every moment of the day?
I don't think I've had ketchup in years, honestly. I've never. It must have been years. Ketchup is so powerful.
And she's got Starscream, and she's got a random racer car, and whatever the hell's in those drawers.
And the Star Wars girl has a much better setup than this. This is like a half-measured attempt to yell at the audience of, I'm a geek, I'm totally a nerd, guys. This is nothing compared to that Star Wars girl. There's like a whole room full of stuff.
Then she just has books.
Yeah, just books.
Mm-hmm. Well, then again, okay, how big is this person? Okay, pretty fucking hell. Lindsay
she has like a million or so.
Okay, yeah, there's no reason not to have actual geek stuff there.
That Star Wars girl has like 150,000. She's like a tenth her size, and she's way better in the background.
I was gonna say my geek stuff is like nowhere near that Star Wars girl's amount of geek stuff, but that's just because I don't have money. Money is a big problem.
That Star Wars girl had some guy buy her a whole new gaming computer. It's useful.
It's because of something called simps.
Being a girl geek is very, very useful, I have to say. Yeah. And that's not a shot at anybody. It just happens to be the truth.
Yeah, it really is a useful asset because people any actual proper geek girl is well sought after in geeks fandoms and stuff.
Which is very strange because I've heard from very reliable sources that nerds hate girls and would never allow them in their fandoms. But here you have a bunch of that Star Wars girl fans buying her new computers and stuff. She has a pretty big audience of probably, and a lot of them probably male geeks and stuff. So I don't think that whole narrative really holds that much water.
Well, you see, females on YouTube have female privilege because they are upvoted more than male YouTubers.
Anyway, back to the video, guys. A video about nothing, really, but that's kind of what she has shown us nothing, or what she has referenced does not back up her claim that there is an actual ideology, and then she's inventing terms like he's a hero of the First Order because.
So, what is the ideology of the First Order? I know they're supposed to be mimicking fascist, mimicking the Nazis, but what is their ideology? I think ideologies. Isn't ideology the ideology of the Nazis, right, was supremacy. It was elevating one race over others and trying to eliminate what they saw as degenerates and unwantables, or the unwanted, undesirables.
All social justice trying to do again.
Elevate one section of people, certain races of people, and purge society of undesirables. Oh, well, that sounds kind of weird.
Obviously, social justice is fascism, of course.
But what's the ideology of the First Order, though? The only thing I've seen from the First Order is that they mimic Nazis and how they dress and how they kind of act and the fervor that they have. And then they have a Hitler-style youth and in the Stormtroopers that actually came from something called Project Resurrection. But other than that, I have no idea. Other than that, they just want to take over everything. It's not, and that's not necessarily a fascist. That is just a bad guy army. Just want to take over everything.
I never linked Project Resurrection from Battlefront 2 as them stealing the kids.
That's what they say in the game.
Yeah, I didn't actually put that together, probably because I wasn't paying attention to Battlefront 2's campaign.
You can be forgiven for that, yeah.
I was just there, I was like, oh, fucking hell, let's just get this over with. Let's just destroy this thing. And then I was cringing at Iden Versio's daughter. It's like, I'm going to fire all the concussion missiles at once. It's like, but they doesn't have concussion missiles. They don't know that.
The dumbest thing is how she wins, because she's quirky and stuff. And she has the same exact hairdo as the Ryan girl from Lower Decks.
It's all
the approved haircut style.
Like it's all just a way to push the story forward. It's like, oh, how do they know where to go next? Oh, they just threatened them and they just gave up everything.
Everything. And this is just surrender. They gave up everything because of some imaginary missiles that they had.
Imaginary missiles.
All right, let's get back to the video, guys.
The fascist in order to consolidate power. The point I'm making here is that it is actually kind of difficult to demonstrate how fascist ideologies gain traction in society and fiction. But with all that said, we don't learn a whole lot about their ideology other than the typical Star Wars powers for power's sake and, you know, hate and dark side and all that. In part because said ideology could be hashtag.
Also, I don't know if you know this or not, but this might be relevant. Did you know that Lindsay Ellis and Nita Sarkeesian are like best buds?
Are you serious?
Yeah, there's like pictures of them like hugging and stuff together that I saw.
Oh.
So they're two of a kind.
Don't say that. That just ruined my image. I thought she was an intellectual. I thought she was smart.
No. Never meet your heroes, smart boy. Never meet your heroes.
Oh.
Another thing, of course, Lindsay is the type of person that uses a fucking Mac. You cretin.
Well, if you're doing video editing, it's pretty good, I have to admit. But if you want to do anything with business...
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, as much as I dislike Apple, if you're doing anything business related, their products are pretty good in those areas. I say this reluctantly.
I'm someone who's I'm in the firm camp of...
By business, I mean like being one of those laptop guys at the bar or laptop guys at the beach.
A lot of Apple products, like I think there was one of the very thin...
Heinz is gone. Yeah, he's gone.
Laptops they did. The very thin laptops they made, like they put a very powerful and overpriced processor in there, and then because they couldn't properly cool it, they limited that processor down so much that it wouldn't create so much heat. So that's one of the problems with Apple, is that it's pretty much just a brand. You're paying overprice.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying they're not terrible, but their products are pretty good if you're just wanting to run business.
It's like when you have the latest iPhone, it's just a fashion thing. It's just that you're having the name for the sake of having the name of it.
Exactly,
it's a fascist thing.
It's a overpriced Linux box. That's all it is. It runs a Linux kernel. It's basically a version of KDE with more support that you pay for, whereas Linux has free support, which you don't pay for. So you're paying triple almost for that kind of machine. Anyway.
But anyway, of course, Lindsay's the type of person that uses Apple.
Maybe she's using she's obviously using a very good camera here, so it's hooked up to something. But let's get to the super chat and keep on going, because I don't think she's going to share much.
For all we know, it could just be an actual DSLR camera. You don't need a computer to have a DSLR camera set up.
She must have a boom mic or something, because I don't see any. I don't see anything attached to her shirt. I don't see anything. Around.
You can have a condenser microphone that's like not. You can just there are like different kinds of. In fact, there was one which I used at college, which I suppose it's kind of like a boom mic, but it's like a mic that's attached to like this little audio recording device. You can use that easily. You don't need a computer to be hooked up to record stuff. There's things called devices that fit in your hand that can do this, can store information.
Okay, John Lemley, thanks again. Germany had land and were fascist, and Rome had land. Were the Romans fascist? They were an empire.
They had sort of like elements from fascism, though, that you would see in fascism. Like the Romans believed that they were the best and everything. They held their own Roman citizenry as the highest reward for people.
They had a senate, which was then superseded by a king tyrant, and that got overthrown a few times. Like, it's kind of strange, yeah.
I don't think they were fascist, but you could see some parallels there.
Once you get
same with the Spartans, I guess, too.
Once you get to totalitarianism, everything's sort of like, okay, there's a power structure, it's militaristic, and they kill people. It's like, okay, yeah, that's it. That's what they do. So at that point, who really cares what you call them? What they do is what matters. And that's kind of what Umberto was talking about, because he lived through that as a kid, and then he grew up with it after World War II. So he knew what it was like, but it's not the philosophy. See, this is what the ideology is. It's a philosophy. We still don't see it because it's not there. And she has made a video about nothing, and she just proclaimed there's nothing there. And she still made a video. And I'm just sitting there like, Lindsay, come on, you could do better than this. You're smarter than this.
You're better looking than that.
Hashtag read as flippant or offensive, but also because the underlying
don't wear that lipstick
is
again.
never logical. Revenge of the Sith actually demonstrates that really well.
Where's
So
some
if you
other
wanna
I
try
wonder
and
how
make,
many
like,
people who haven't watched American Psycho that, because I never got these references before I watched the film. No, I love the film.
Don't wear that dress again. You don't like this dress? I take it, Mr. Bateman. You come on, you're prettier than that. Lindsay, don't wear that shade of lipstick again. Come on, you're prettier than that.
Okay. Like, if we actually take out the context, not actually understanding that it's a reference, it could be misconstrued as something really bad.
And a bottle is back. Is that ketchup? What is that? I can't tell.
It's still it's the Heinz bottle. It's back.
It's back. What's going on?
We can tell which
so
cuts are
what's happened?
with the ketchup bottle.
The close-up shots are the ones with the ketchup bottle, and the far-away shots are so she's physically had two. So she has one camera and she's made two recordings of her saying the same lines, but then she said it twice so that she can have the far-away cuts and the close-up cuts. I
think she did two takes, and the second take was the zoom-ins where she was eating a burger and she was lazy. He's like, all right, I don't have any topping.
The fucking tomato ketchup in the background.
Yeah, I gotta put some condiments on my food, or it's gonna taste bland. So she's eating at her desk. It's like, oh shit, I gotta get this video done. Puts it to the side, puts everything else to the side, takes it out of the shot as she thinks. It's still there. So, yeah, she's a hungry girl.
Pajama plush toys out of your space fascist, it does make sense that you'd probably just want to skip all that and just get right to the totalitarianism part.
So let's go back to Kylo Ren. What was it about the ideology?
You know, totalitarianism is itself another philosophy. If she's admitting to that, how could there be both? Tell us why. Tell us how. Ellis, please. You're just throwing words around, expecting us to believe you now.
Also, yeah, I remember when as a kid, if I wanted to buy a Stormtrooper toy, it was totally because I believed in the fascist or the ideology of the Empire. It definitely wasn't because Stormtroopers look cool. I wanted one.
Yeah.
And especially if I already had a Luke Skywalker toy, it definitely was not. I would just want a Stormtrooper toy so I can have him fight Luke, my Luke toy.
LiteratureDevil, that means that you think fascism is cool.
If you buy a Stormtrooper toy, you think that doesn't mean that you dislike them. It just means that you think fascism is cool. That's what it really means.
You think fascism looks cool, and therefore you're a Nazi.
And therefore you are a Nazi. And all of a sudden, you're a Nazi. You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this.
Here you are playing Battlefront 2. All of a sudden, you're a stormtrooper. You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this, but there it is. You're a Nazi. We've got another super chat.
Oh, John Lemley. That shade of lipstick doesn't even have a watermark.
Very nice. I like that one. That was pretty good.
I need to watch American Psycho again because it's a fucking good film.
See, I knew you'd like it.
Thank you for introducing it, because it is really good.
See, I knew you'd like it. I knew it.
Of the first appeals to him. Was he worried about alien multiculturalism leading to the eventual demise of the human race?
No.
No, he's disappointed in his father and his father figure. I guess Luke made a
Luke wasn't his
thought about
father
killing him for
figure.
a second, but Kylo Ren
'Cause he
didn't
has
join
a
the
father.
fascists because he was seduced by
If anything,
fascist
he was a
ideology.
mentor.
Kylo Ren is a fascist figurehead out of spite.
The supreme leader.
No, he
Is he a
wasn't.
fascist figurehead, though? Is he, though? Is he a fascist figurehead?
Long live the supreme leader.
The Last Jedi showed that
Supreme
Kylo
Leader's
Ren doesn't
dead.
really
Long
care
live the
about
Supreme
enriching any
Leader.
side, other than whatever side will best empower him, which goes to show that he has no ideology to defend, because he doesn't.
His ideology is the dark side ideology. That's it. His ideology is just the dark side. How the dark side users actually operate. That's his ideology. Whatever move, whatever choice gives him more power, that's the one I'm going to go with. That's his ideology.
Dev, that is giving a lot of credit to the writers of the film, acting like Kylo Ren actually stands for anything.
He doesn't. The only thing he
like,
really stands for is the dark side.
You're acting like they've actually written something into Kylo Ren. They haven't.
I'm sure they did it on purpose. I'm pretty sure they did by accident.
He just does whatever. Like, whatever the script wants him to do, he does it.
But if you could extrapolate some sort of ideology and piece it together with, I don't know, this super glue or whatever, it would be the dark side, your traditional Star Wars dark side ideology. Whatever move or choice gives him more power, that's the move he's going to make. That's
Also,
the nature of the dark side.
Can I just point out those TIE fighters on the roof? How does anyone get to those? How does anyone get inside them and access them? They're just on the roof.
Maybe they lower, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they're just being made. Are they being stored?
In like the rest of Star Wars, they store the TIE fighters on the roof, but the thing is, they have platforms that you can get into them from. Like they have walkways.
Maybe they forgot. They do a lot of building for these massive, gigantic ships, you know.
Well, she admits that if there is no actual ideology of Kylo Ren. So, again, Lindsay, why did you make this video? It's just getting silly. If I have facts and I research them and I find out the facts don't match what I implied or was looking for, I don't write an essay. I find another topic. It's like, hey, what did you discover in your quest for information? Nothing. It's like, oh.
Another thing is that this is in Force Awakens. So, like, why did they only send 3 TIE fighters if they had so many on the roof there? But then maybe the reason why they only sent 3 TIE fighters because they couldn't get to the ones on the roof.
Yeah, this is a good question because it is J.J. Abrams' review, if you remember, and in Force Awakens. So they shouldn't have sent 3. They should have sent 300. That'll be J.J. Abrams style.
No, but we're talking about a Rian Johnson film with The Last Jedi, so...
Well, that's probably why then. There's no J.J. Abrams to send everyone, just send 3.
I'm still laughing at the fact in episode 7 where they couldn't escape the hangar because of the power cable or the fuel cable, whatever. It's like, really? It's that latched on that strong?
Yeah, I mean,
spaceship?
Cables and all that kind of stuff. Like, imagine a petrol pump. Like, if you put it in your car and then you just start driving off, that's not gonna
stop you.
It's just not gonna stop the car. Especially the speed and the force which those TIE fighters are like going. It's just gonna rip it off.
Yeah. Anyway.
He doesn't care. Possibly because there is no ideology to defend.
Thank
I think
you.
this also speaks to some of the disappointment with Snoke. The Emperor was
No.
good at stoking fear and exploiting it, a common authoritarian tactic. But Snoke?
No.
What does he even want?
Not in the
Supreme Leader
film.
is wise.
Snoke is using you for your power. The seed of the Jedi Order lives.
What does he even want? I don't know. It's almost as if these movies were terribly written or
In
something.
the end, Kylo Ren is willing to dispatch with his old master, basically on a whim, because
Yes.
Snoke's ideology is not worth fighting for.
There
because
is
it doesn't
none.
exist.
There is no
Routing
ideology.
around back to Umberto Eco,
He's
one
just
concept
on
of
a
fascism
dark
is that
side
it idealizes
user.
this
He's a
concept
typical
of some
Sith
savior.
ideology. A typical Sith ideal. Yeah, the Sith, the apprentice will always try to kill the master at the first opportunity.
There's an
And
idea.
Vader wanted to. No, something illusory.
It's like she has no idea what she's talking about.
I don't think she's ever seen Star Wars at this point. The Vader wanted to kill the Emperor. He wanted to, but he couldn't because the Emperor was way too powerful.
Savior,
Okay, so
or what
apparently
Echo
last
refers to
night,
as the
Glib covered a video that says Mariner is like Ahsoka, but better.
Who?
What?
That's an obvious lie.
Mariner from Star Trek Lower Decks.
Whoa.
How much
They're not
money
even-
did CBS give that guy?
They're not even comparable characters. Like, there's nothing that you can possibly... Even if, theoretically, Mariner was well written, even the backstories of the two, because Ahsoka is an apprentice to Anakin Skywalker. This isn't even an apprentice character. This is a mentor character, and someone who is off, like, very drunk, like, doesn't like the rules, disrespect rules, disrespect authority, and you have a lot more in line with Rick from Rick and Morty than you do anything else. So I don't think you can make the comparison at all between Mariner and Ahsoka. They're not comparable.
And in case you guys are wondering what fascist means, it's eternal. That's what Umberto Eco is referring to. Which Lindsay never rather bothered to tell you, but okay.
or fascist hero. Says Eco, in non-fascist societies, the lay public is told that death is unpleasant, must be faced with dignity. Believers are told that it is the painful way to reach a supernatural happiness. By contrast, the fascist hero craves heroic death, advertised as the best reward for a heroic life. The fascist hero is impatient to die. In his impatience, he more frequently sends other people to death. Since permanent war and heroism...
It's called being a soldier. Really, I mean, we could look at this from multiple perspectives. This is one of his 14 or whatever, how many lists Umberto Eco made of how he tried to define fascism as he saw it. He didn't create it. He observed it. He lived through it. And he's talking about how this is a mentality. The same way you look at any other person, you admire them. Well, I wish I could be in a position where I could help him or take a bullet for him or this or that. It's that sort of mentality. The same thing with a person joining the American military or any military of any country. You feel pride. You want to serve your country and do whatever it is that people want you to do. It's the same mentality. The difference is Umberto's talking about this heroic, this romantic concept of heroic death and serving your state and this and that. It's like, well, I guess some people think that way as well, in some cases as well. It doesn't have to be a fascist aspect, but this is merely an observable instance of how emotional these people might have been. And I don't see that. I really don't see that in Kylo Ren. He's angry. He's emotional, but he's not emotional for the First Order. We don't know why he's emotional aside from him being Sith, and that's what he does to get power. That's it.
My brain. I'm kind of glad I'm taking alcohol again.
Yeah, I know. Oh, jeez.
You know, what you call a palate cleanser and what I call a palate cleanser are two very different things.
Yeah, that's true.
I consider Monday Matt a palate cleanser. Well,
No. Anything that makes me get angrier or disgusted is not a palate cleanser. That's the
Matt
opposite.
didn't make me angry because I don't take Matt seriously at all.
It's okay when I see a person either lying to me and I see his face and he's looking smug at me, calling people names, being ignorant or being stupid. I just get turned off.
But that isn't anything new from Monday Matt. That's just him.
I have not seen him in years. That was a shock. I was like, oh, I can't take this anymore.
Didn't you know about the whole thing of his own self-destruction?
Oh, I knew that, but that was a joke to me. I was laughing at it. But I don't watch him. I don't want to look at him. I don't want to listen. This is like, oh my God, this is painful. Anyway, John Lemley again. Have you ever heard the tragedy of the... It's great. The Dorsia Reservation. It's not a story the vice presidents would tell you. Dorsia, everyone wants to go there.
John Lemley's super chats are always just references to that bloody film.
He's great. John knows his stuff. Yeah, he's like actually listening to us and having a good time at our expense, of course. But Dorsia is just a social construct. There you go. Like fascism.
fascism is about hate, and the opposite is about love.
This is true.
I'm pretty sure that Lindsay Ellis could not get a table at Dorsia. She's stuck at Texarkana too with Mundane Matt.
Mundane Matt couldn't even get into that.
Are difficult games to play, the Or-Fascist transfer his will to power to sexual matters. This is the origin of machismo, which...
Wait, whoa, what are you talking about? What is this? Okay, now she's referencing another part of Umberto Eco. This is a second part. Previous one was 11. This one's number 12. Which machismo implies the disdain for women and intolerance and condemnation of non-standard sexual habits from chastity to homosexuality. This is true. This was an aspect of Nazism as well as Italian fascism, where they saw as deviant behavior as bad. But that is any nationalist philosophy. It doesn't have to be ethnic-based or sexual-based. So again, this has nothing to do with the First Order because there's no details that we have. So why is she bringing this up? Gee, I guess she's an ideologue. She might have something to say in those realms.
It implies both disdain for women and intolerance and condemnation of non-standard sexual habits, from chastity to homosexuality. Since even sex is a difficult game to play, the Or-Fascist hero tends to play with weapons. Doing so becomes an ersatz phallic exercise.
Plays with weapons.
Okay, so again, this is all by Umberto Eco, a guy who lived through it. Now he's referencing Freudian concepts. I'm like, okay, fine, dude. You got your observations.
But plays with weapons. Okay, so what do you do? Like actual weapons? Hey, like toy weapons? Like just having weapons, or like I don't know. You consider going to a shooting range playing with weapons, but like what you talk about specifically when playing with weapons?
Yeah, this is a really weird Freudian concept where you're associating power with dominance, either sexually or violently. So if you can't express yourself sexually, you have these pent-up emotions, so you're going to express it in some other fashion. That's the point of the ego. So you have all these desires, your instincts. This is part of the id, and it has to come out somehow. It comes out through the ego, and they associate it with violence and sex because it's Freud.
Kylo Ren isn't really playing with weapons, and neither is anyone in the First Order. They actively have weapons because they're a military organization, and they like to use power to obtain more power.
This is why I don't like reading Umberto Eco. Not to say he's wrong. Again, I said this before. He's not the originator of the term. He's a guy who lived through it. There's a big difference between the communism on paper and communism in reality. Big difference. Okay? Same with fascism, same with democracy, etc. So why Lindsay's bringing this up, we don't know. Anywho, here's more super chats I got to go through. John Limley. Guys, it's official. Macho Man Randy Savage was a fascist. Yeah, I guess. He just played with weapons and was expressing his sexuality with table chairs. I don't know. He just smacked stuff around, whatever he did in the ring. Fantastic. Again, John Limley, as a chaser for this, there's an amusing video of Randy Savage as the Emperor. Really? In Empire Strikes Back. I had no idea. They did a parody of that? That's amazing. Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually.
I want to see that. Tyler Preston, money for booze to numb the pain. Godspeed. Yeah, we're too late. I'm stuck with my water. The booze is too far away. Sadly.
Well, I made myself some very nice rum and cherryade, well, diet cherryade, sugar-free.
Yeah, this is kind of
nice and tasty.
It's these are dumb videos. People love them because she's being intellectual. She's referencing person who lived through fascism. He must know what he's talking about. Yes, from his point of view, which doesn't reflect actual fascism or what the philosophy of fascism was.
I'm really surprised Lindsay Ellis has the popularity that she does, and that this video is very. Like, it's got like so many people like supporting it, and it's got so many upvotes. and like so many people in the comments like upholding this video.
You combine a popular concept with like Star Wars, throw in some politics, reference a guy about a topic that people don't like or use as a popular term. You know, she's combining popular topics together and sounding intellectual. That's all she's doing. And she hasn't actually said anything about Kylo Ren being a because there is no connection aside from aesthetics, which is obvious. Anyway, John Lemley, why are we still here? Just to be machismo? According to Hideo Kojima, yeah, I think the majority of the Metal Gear Solid games are a bunch of dudes, or the bloodline of Naked Snake getting beaten up and surviving through military encounters. Oh, he's playing with toys.
So before Luke's oopsie daisy,
That's him
Kylo
having
Ren
a little
is
bitch
essentially
fit
proto-fascist
outburst.
clay, the raw anger
Because he's
and resentment
angry.
before it has been given a target. So
This is
before
what
Luke's
JJ
oopsie
thinks
daisy,
like
Kylo Ren is
like a scary villain looks like. Someone who just like the reason why like you think of some of the best villains, and they're villains that are calm, they're controlled. One of the most badass things about let's just pull, I don't know, Count Dooku is the fact that he is so controlled, but yet he has that rage and that power inside him that he just keeps under there, and he has that veneer of calmness, despite who he really is. And like there's so many other like villains that you could probably use an example of that they're not just people who have a rage fit, have a paddy because there was a girl and the thing escaped and now he's going to have a paddy tearing up this console.
Less is more, essentially, and to show Kylo Ren as an angry little child is part of his character. It has nothing to do with a political ideology or any ideology for that matter, aside from him not being in control of his emotions.
I was just more talking about Force Awakens, because the characterization of Kylo Ren outside this video, in terms of how he was written, like it's not how you write an intimidating villain as just someone who gets upset and is not controlled at all. Because you can't take them seriously. They're not intimidating.
It depends. I mean, he's obviously
Remember
violent
how
and dangerous.
controlled Darth Vader, not Anakin, but Darth Vader in the original trilogy. He would just stand there and just wait for an attack, and every single movement of his was so controlled and right on the money and very strategic. He could kick Luke, he could block an attack, and he was just waiting. He's just there testing him, and it was so scary because he was like a specter. And no matter what Luke did, Vader did not go down. Vader did not just throw tantrums every time Luke attacked or something, because that's not scary. That's what a little boy does.
It just makes them look immature.
Yeah, that's it. And that's not a scary villain. You can have a villain like that, and then but you tend to need to have another villain beside them that has more control. That would have been Snoke, but Snoke is barely in the movie.
You need a reason to be scared of them, and you can have an immature villain that you are scared of, but that's often for other reasons. But when you just have someone who's really immature, and it doesn't and that's that's supposed to be the selling point. His selling point is that he's immature and he has these paddies.
I think a good example would be Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender. She was very controlled, she was very disciplined, and that discipline made her very powerful, and powerful enough to take on several of the main characters at once and come out the victor because of her control. She didn't she had emotional problems.
She could even these random lightning. Lightning is described as you need a lot of self-control to be able to do it, and she's one of the few people who can do it.
Yeah, usually, yeah. It's let's make the control and the discipline is what makes these villains so scary a lot of the time. You can have an unhinged guy, but usually they're not the main bad guy. Sometimes they are, and
they're unhinged. They're not immature.
I think Stansfield from with Leon the Professional, he is pretty unhinged. He's a kind of a psychotic guy, but he's also very controlled in the fact that he can take charge and discipline his men and keep things going. When things need to get done, he gets them done. He is, however, unhinged and kind of mentally unstable, but he still has enough control and enough discipline with himself to maintain an era of ominous presence around him. You don't know what he's going to do, and he's still able to pick up on tricks and things that make him villainous, make him scary. For example, when Matilda goes in there to shoot him up inside of the police station, it's not he like instantly makes her. So he corners her, and he's so scary. He gives us just a scary vibe, even though he has no guns. Oh, he does pull out a gun, but the moment he walks in, before he pulls out his gun, Matilda's already scared because this guy is just that scary. He gives us that era of confidence that she stands no chance. She just couldn't move, despite her earlier confidence she had in herself.
So long as as he has his package of cocaine, he's good. Yeah.
Is that the Chinese or Italian food? Yeah.
All right, here's a super chat from John Lemley again. Serious question as a simple man from the South. What is Marmite? Oh, Shiny, go ahead.
Marmite is a British thing, I guess British/European. It's a byproduct of making beer that some very bizarre people like to put on their toast or bagels. It is fucking disgusting. It's like having how like beer tastes horrible, but it's like having the taste of horrible beer, but it's worse because it's a yeast extract, while also having the not advantage of beer getting you a bit tipsy.
I'm trying to imagine that because most of the beer I have is delicious. So.
Yeah, I was about to say that, but most beer I have is delicious.
I guess from the South, like south of America, it's not a Northern American thing. It's exclusively, from what I can tell, very British. Only very few places. Oh yeah, okay. So that's correct. Yeah, it's only British. Marmite. It's sometimes called Vegemite. It's sometimes
they didn't really exactly branch out very well in the rest of the world.
Because it tastes like shit.
Either that, or it's all bought up. Either the British consumers love it so much, and they hit demand, and they can't produce enough stock. So it's like, well, I guess we can't export. Okay.
Okay, so Australia has Vegemite, which is the exact same thing. It's just named differently.
All right. Okay. Let's keep going, guys.
Ren is essentially the proto-fascist clay, the raw anger and resentment before it has been given a target. This is all.
No and no. I'm sorry. This is proto-fascist. What are you talking about, Lindsay? What are you off about? If you want to talk about...
Okay, at this point, I know she's friends with Nina Sarkeesian. Is she friends with Renegade Cut? She's just taking points from Renegade Cut. This is what a Renegade Cut does. Here's some images from Star Wars while you listen to my political rant.
This is silly. I mean, if you want to explain the beginnings of fascism... with D'Annunzio, I can't remember his name, but he was like the grandfather of the idea of it, and then that was later perpetuated by other people, ultimately coming with Gentile, and Gentile had a whole school of people that he was talking to, so he was more than just the fascist guy who invented it. He was into all sorts of things philosophically. You'd have to talk about how such things come about, how imperialism comes about, why Japan picked it up, why France picked it up. There's so many there's dozens of countries in the world that were fascist. You can't just throw Kylo Ren is the proto-fascist. It's like, no.
What's a proto-fascist?
I don't want to know. I really don't want to know.
All part and parcel narrative trajectory of the trilogy, where Ben is savable in part because he lacks ideology. However, even in that...
If he lacks ideology, how could he be a proto-fascist? What are you talking about?
He's a proto-fascist because... And that's it.
That's like nihilism. He could be a proto-nihilist and then he becomes a nihilist. It's the same thing. There's nothing. He believes in nothing. It's like, thank you. Oh my goodness.
Super chat.
Dead Slash. Vegemite is greater than Marmite. Vegemite was banned in the U.S. Why was it banned? Holy, what the hell happened?
like you could have really fucking do something to ban like food in the US, because the US has notoriously has very low food restrictions.
I could see. Well, the FDA is pretty crazy, but I could see them banning it. I just want to know a good reason why. There is
Vegemite banned in USA. Why is it banned? Let's see.
There is some products like pickled herrings which probably aren't accepted in all countries, just because could be a health hazard. But it really depends on the food product, because some food products cannot be shipped. I don't know about being banned, though. John Lemley, how can you use proto-fascist as an adjective if you fail to define what fascism itself is? Well, that's another part of the problem, but she's already told us there is no ideology of the First Order or of Kylo Ren, and she's talking about Umberto Eco's one point, how everyone's a hero under the regime. And you're like, no. A life and death, or a part of the death cult, because you believe so strongly that you were willing to die for your country, which is pretty much every soldier. For every
only fascists.
Only fascists, yeah, exactly.
People as heroes.
So
the only heroes in the eyes of fascists, apparently.
When I look up Vegemite being banned in the USA, I get very mixed results. Where like the FDA Vegemite ban, Vegemite is not banned in the USA. Is Vegemite banned? Nothing really concrete.
Here's Taker 610. Kylo is a Frodo fascist. Everything for the Shire.
Shire lives matter.
I try to remember. Someone made a joke about how with Joel and Tommy in The Last of Us 2, they forgot to use fake names or not reveal their names, whereas I think it was Gandalf told the hobbits, don't use your Shire names anymore, make new ones. So even Frodo and co were smart enough.
They call themselves Underhill or something.
Evan Monroe actually tweeted that out. Like, hey, did you know that even Gandalf and the hobbits knew not to use their real names when they had enemies looking for them? But Joel did not. So I think that goes a long way to the fact that the whole plot of Last of Us 2 relied on everyone just being stupid.
Man, I gotta talk to Evan. I haven't talked to him in so long. How's he been? I know he's in the channel. I just never see him and never hear from him. Oh well.
Yeah, like he's still like in the Smudcast Discord, and he's online. He just doesn't seem to say anything in the Discord.
Folate. Yeah, it contains folate, which U.S. deems addictive substance, only allowed in bread. Folate is a vitamin, as far as I can tell. I remember. I don't know why it was banned, though, because of folate. I do know it was, it's used for, women are encouraged to eat, or like pasta would have it because it contains folate, which has helped to prevent birth defects. So it's actually a good thing in some cases. So I don't know. We're talking about folic acid. There's all kinds of acids you need in your body, and this is specific to gestating babies. So yeah, encourage your women who are pregnant to eat pasta, apparently. Just not Vegemite for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, keep on going.
He still embodies Eco's description of Urfascism as a non-ideology of action for action's sake. So, what does the First Order want?
No. He's not he is not the definer of fascism. He's a guy who lived through it, and he's making observations. That's it. This is getting stupid. It's from silly to just stupid, as if Umberto Eco is like the definitive guide to fascism. It's stupid. It's like someone who lived through a certain part of the world of the Third Reich is the definitive guide to what it means to be a Nazi or whatever, which is not what the question asked.
It could be that the movies go out of their way not to say, because then it would be #TooReal and we can't put Captain Phasma on t-shirts.
Or, and I'm about to give Disney way too much credit, there could be a deeper understanding at play that the ideology doesn't actually matter. And that's kind of the point.
Perhaps the error is in trying to apply...
Okay, so that's
the point. It doesn't matter, though, because they're just bad guys.
If that's the point, and you came to that conclusion yourself, Lindsay, why did you make this video? Why did you waste your
I guess
time?
you needed ad revenue.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she wanted
For the ad
1.6 million views. Yeah, that's a lot of money. I hate this. She made a video about nothing. And we're sitting there going, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Smudge Boy's like, thanks, I hate this.
There are so many, there's so much positive response to this video as well, which is painful.
It's a space opera. I could have told you this in about 20 seconds. It's not that deep. It's melodramatic. It's a lot of big bang boom. It's simple stuff. It's not hard science. It's not very political. There are political elements, the same way there are military elements. Doesn't mean it's your whatever ideology.
Logic to an inherently non-logical ideology. Again, according to Eco, Nazism had a really clear-cut ideology, but concurrent Italian fascism under Mussolini did not, and the First Order also borrows heavily from those aesthetics. In Eco's words, contrary to common opinion, fascism in Italy had no special philosophy. Mussolini did not have any philosophy, he only had rhetoric.
He was a socialist. Yes, he had rhetoric, he was a leader of the part. Oh, this is getting stupid. You trying to tell me no politician has an ideology? They're just a guy or a girl? They just get elected because they look good? I mean, possibly. It's kind of brain-dead politicians. I'm not saying it's not possible. But the leader of a movement who's calling himself a fascist and a representative of the state, the spiritual leader of the people. Fascism is not, even I think Hitler said in the 30s, he was not, the dictator is not one man, he is 10,000 men, because they all share the same mentality. They all have the same philosophy. That's the idea. That's the fervor and belief of the fascist mentality. They all believe politically and ideologically and spiritually, nationally. It's this whole unifying force. It is mother and father, and as well as religion. It is all these things.
I'm trying to remember, who was the YouTuber we were covering that started the whole Marmite meme, where she said, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and Last Jedi is like Marmite. You either hate it or you love it.
Really?
I'm trying to remember who that was and where we got the meme from, where it started.
I'm guessing it's going to be like Yahtzee or something like that, because who else can make that reference?
It was some female YouTuber.
Really?
I have to. There's so many Smudcasts now, it's impossible to remember back to what it was specifically, but it was a very, very long time ago. And then just since then, just Marmite just kept sticking around for some reason. I guess maybe I pushed it a bit at the beginning, but then after I stopped pushing it, it still kind of kept coming up.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Magame Fish. I don't think so.
No. I mean, she wouldn't be a beyond saying weird shit, but that is probably not her bag.
She's not British. I don't think she's not British. Is she British?
No.
So.
She could have British genes, but not raised in Britain. No.
So I don't think she would know anything about Marmite.
Probably not. No. Anyway, we got 3 minutes. We can do it.
His early anti-clerical years, according to a likely legend, he once asked God, in order to prove his existence, to strike him down on the spot. Later, Mussolini always cited the name of God in his speeches, and did not mind being called the Man of Providence.
Wow, so did Hitler. Wow, it's amazing. Oh my God.
On the one hand, it's not unfair to point out that with fascism, ideology is only a means to an end, and the end is the quashing of dissent, stamping out diversity, heroes and heroic death, and strict totalitarianism. Star Wars has always understood that much. Bad guys employing horrible acts we see mirrored in the real world, but shifting them just far enough from real-world atrocities that we can merchandise the villains almost as much as we merchandise the heroes.
That took a really weird conclusion. She was doing so well. We can merchandise it's a movie. It's a popular franchise. It's cool. People want
we should start this video with something else in mind, and then she came to the conclusion and is like, oh, this is pointless. I need to come with some other conclusion really, really quickly here.
Yeah, is it like capitalism bad? Is that the message now? Because merchandise bad? Like, what are you talking about now? Like, what? The ideology of the First Order is to sell stuff. It's like, well, you're not wrong. I mean, that's what Disney's plan was, but what? How did you get there, Lindsay?
Disney, a company that spent billions of dollars on Star Wars, wanted to sell Star Wars? No way.
Whoa, they're going to make money off a $1 billion investment. I couldn't see that coming.
The Galactic Empire presents Stormtroopers live from the Death Star. That sounds like an interesting band. I want to listen to them.
We see this in the likes of Thanos as well. He's a genocidal monster, sure, but, you know, at least he goes by random coin toss for who he kills. Some of the time. See, he doesn't target specific ethnic groups like real genociders do. He's an egalitarian genocidal monster. He's complex.
Bad guy.
To quote Echo again,
But the thing is, he has the power to just kill half without, going by things race and gender, because he has infinite power. The reason why, the thing about other genocides was that it makes it very easy to distinguish, other than a coin toss, and it's a very easy thing to get people behind if you're demonizing a certain subgroup. So you're looking at two very different kinds of genocide.
I like how we just switch topics from one Disney property to another. It's like, okay, Star Wars and now Marvel. Like, why?
Thanos isn't exactly a fascist, and again, just the word fascism seems to have lost all meaning. And she even says that early in the video, but then kind of forgets that it's people like her that kind of means it's losing her meaning. But losing its meaning is because she's going off on all these things that she thinks is fascism, but isn't actually fascism.
Yeah, she never actually defined it properly, and she just sort of said, it's kind of hard to define.
So she's showing what she believes to be white supremacy, and I don't know if it's white supremacy or not. It's like the thingy march, whatever it's called, that happened once, and then ever since people have been kept bringing it up, where a bunch of white people march saying "You will not replace us." You know what it's called?
The White People March.
Like those people marching, just screaming, "You will not replace us!" And I can't remember. It was in America.
Okay.
It was probably around 2016.
You mean the Charlottesville thing?
Charlottesville, yeah. They keep referring to Charlottesville, and she pulled up the clips of Charlottesville when talking about it. But the thing is, though, even I'm not going to say if they are or aren't white supremacists, because I don't even know if they are. But even if they are, white supremacists are not fascist. They are very different things, and that is the lack of understanding that she's even demonstrating here. Where it's like the idea of your race being superior and fascism. While there are, I don't know, some lines you can draw between the two, they're not the same.
Historical priority does not seem to me a sufficient reason to explain why the word fascism became a synecdoche, that is, a word that could be used for different totalitarian movements. This is not because fascism can...
Or vice versa, because totalitarianism can work on top of fascism the same way it can work on top of a republic or other things. It's a nebulous term defined by multiple philosophers, enacted by multiple governments dozens of times over. It's very hard to figure out. So because of that nebulous nature, you can't get away with not defining it and using it to say, well, this is a proto-fascist character hero because Umberto Eco said so. It's like, no, that's not the definition. That's some guy who was in Italy at the time. That's it. Maybe his version of Italian fascism that he lived through, but not the actual fascism from Italy. This is like...
Also, don't you love this music as well? It's really fun, like dun, 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 dun. Just constant fun looping music over and over and over again.
She's a fun, quirky girl. She's a funny girl. She knows her stuff, but she's just being a kiddo about it. Okay. Not serious at all.
Listen to this fun, quirky music as it just repeats over and over again. At least it's not as bad as some other video, which had the same... I can't remember what it was exactly, but I remember early on there was this other video that just kept repeating the same tune over and over again to the point where it really frustrated me in one of the early Smudcasts I was in.
Oh dear, let's not remind ourselves of the visual and audio cues of Lava Chain. Yeah, fantastic. 30 minutes of lava. Ooh.
Contained in itself speak in their quintessential state all the elements of any later form of totalitarianism. On the contrary, fascism had no quintessence. Fascism was a fuzzy totalitarianism, a collage of different philosophical and political ideas, a beehive of contradictions. So it could be that they're being lazy and playing it safe so they can sell more stuff, but who knows, maybe deep down, Disney understands this.
No. And if they do, there's no evidence. It's just a visual motif that they borrowed, if not stole, from the original trilogy. That's all JJ did.
So all JJ knows how to
do. That's what makes this family-friendly type of fascism so easy to brand and to sell.
So, who cares? Part of the problem...
Oh, God.
You know, Lindsay Ellis, if you monetize this video, you're making money off of the idea of fascism. You better not monetize it, or else you're kind of a hypocrite, aren't you?
That last part's going to be a sponsorship, isn't it?
So, who cares?
Follow me on Skillshare.
Yeah, so who cares? Please follow me on Skillshare.
When I need to know more about fascism,
use...
I like to use Audible.
You could actually read about it if you don't care, but I don't.
With applying even a very modest set of...
Oh, the ketchup's back. Thanks, guys.
Academic theory to a pop culture thing is then we get some hand-wringing over the inevitable moralizing, and it also begs the question, well, what do you want me to do about it? Not own Darth Vader pajamas? When that is not the point.
And it's gone. It's amazing.
She doesn't want to buy anything because it's too bad. It's too evil. You're supporting fascism somehow if you're buying Darth Vader pajamas.
Lindsay, you're saying this all while wearing a Kylo Ren shirt.
You know, if we're going to go ahead and go a little bit further, you're saying that if someone buys, I don't know, a copy of Mein Kampf, they're suddenly supporting fascism and they're a Nazi. It cannot possibly be because they are like a history student or a history scholar who wanted to read the book of Hitler to study what fascists and tyrants like him thought at that time, or what the plans were of the Nazi regime were.
The hell's happening with her mouth right now?
Speaking.
That's quite her mouth is going like in this weird shape.
That's like basic Trump. That's how he talks. It's like he always makes that kissing motion.
It looks like maybe I'm just on a different like screenshot. Like this is what I'm seeing right now, where it looks like her face is like her mouth is like kind of poorly drawn on, like it's like a perspective thing in like some 2D cartoon. Like it looks like it doesn't fit.
Well, I'm happy she's going to tell us to not buy stuff, or maybe it's okay to buy stuff after all this. It's like, thanks, Lindsay.
The point examine the context of the thing, not demand that Disney make their villains less fashy. Fictional villains always draw inspiration from real-world bad things, and...
No, they don't. No, who said this? Why would this be true? Why can't I make a fictional villain in my head that is not inspired by Hitler or Mussolini or whomever? Or a bad thing that happened to people? Why can't I... Hey, you know what? Genocide underwater. Let's try that. I've never heard a story of that before.
Oh! So sorry to interrupt. Sorry. I'll let you finish.
It's just this silly... Like, what a silly thing to say. Let's just rewind that. Just see how dumb that was.
So Andrew Clark, thank you for finding out. It's from the Marmite meme was from Smudcast 22.
Really? Oh my, that's amazing memory, Mr. Clark. Holy crap. Anyway,
but yeah, I quickly looked up the video, and yeah, he's correct. I recognize the lady.
Okay.
Well, what do you want me to do about it? Not own Darth Vader pajamas?
Yeah, you're judging me for my Darth Vader pajamas.
Is to examine the context of the thing,
5-year-old.
Not demand that Disney make their villains less fashy. Fictional villains always draw inspiration from real-world bad things, and that's fine. That said, I do think it's worth examining how the portrayal of the dark side has changed since Disney got a hold of it. That the
a lot of things have changed in Star Wars since Disney got a hold of it, and a lot of it for the bad, for the worse.
So. But what way does she think it's changing? That's what I'm curious by hearing about.
Every time she's trying to bring the point back around to make this video, worth existing in the first place, she goes off and just destroys that attempt. I don't know what's going on. No, she could have made a point, even though it would be dumb, that we shouldn't buy merchandise that supports fascism or something because it has Darth Vader on it. And then she goes, "No, that's fine. You should just buy things with. You could totally buy merchandise with stuff." Even though she was demonizing it a second ago and saying, "Oh, they just want to put Phasma on a T-shirt." That's why they don't say the ideology. But it's totally fine. Okay, thanks, Lindsay Ellis, for saying that. What we already knew, that buying merchandise from a very popular franchise is fine. This,
I haven't heard anyone.
There's no point to this video, as far as I've seen.
Yeah, I haven't heard anyone say the word "fash" in like a very long time. And what it reminds me of is when people start saying, "Let's bash the fash."
Oh,
I know she says fashy. I don't know if that's that new term, the new style language, where everyone's regressing to the language of kids and the infantilization of modern day adult language. Putting Y at the end of things, for example. Like, I was pilly the other day. I just took a lot of which means I took a lot of drugs and pills and stuff. Just adding Y at the end. I don't know if she mentioned or she was saying fashy for that reason, or fashy as in the actual fasci. Has she even mentioned the fasci? Because that's pretty important when you're talking about fascism.
I was about to say something, and I totally forgot what I was about to say. So I was looking at the super chat. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." John Lemley.
Well, if you forgot, then obviously it wasn't very important.
I can't recall, but anyway.
So is there a part in Star Wars where the First Order says we're stronger together, or they have that mentality or ideology of by ourselves, as one we're weakened, but as together we're strong and unbreakable.
What was the speech with Hux? I can't remember the quote, but it was essentially.
I can't remember anything from these movies.
Something about a republic, hypocrisy, something, the last day in the republic, something, and saying like, I'll look up Hux's speech.
Yeah, that's word for word pretty much what I heard. Something republic. Something hypocrisy
of the republic.
That's pretty much what I heard. Yeah,
we're gonna kill them. It's like, okay, great. John Lemley, I send a lot of macho male simulator devices to Nina Sarkeesian, but sometimes proto-fascists pick them up instead. That's why I use stamps.com. Okay. Make sure they know exactly what's in the delivery.
So I have the quote here. So today is the end of the Republic, the end of the regime that I quit. Sorry, maybe I've had too much to drink. Something to disorder. At this moment, in a system far away from here, the New Republic lies to the galaxy while secretly supporting the treachery of the rogue resistance. This fierce machine which you have built, upon which we stand, will bring the end of the Senate to their cherished fleet. All remaining systems will bow to the First Order. And remember, this is the last day of the Republic. That is the speech. Fascism. Of course.
And I just recalled that the ketchup bottle's back.
It's a teleporting ketchup bottle.
It's amazing.
Ketchup bottle appears. Ketchup bottle disappears. Oh my god.
Filmmakers decided to lean into the fasci imagery rather than away from it.
The fasci imagery. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. There was a UK show called The Young Ones, a comedy show, and there was a guy, and he kept calling everyone a fascist. It was absolutely ridiculous. But that's the one time I remember people saying, I thought that was a satire comedy about, young kids going through school or whatever. But it was so ridiculous. And now people are calling people fascists all the time now. It's getting stupid.
I haven't seen that.
The Young Ones? Oh, it's fantastic.
It's almost as if we're going to through the actual movie of Idiocracy.
Yeah, I would also agree. Yeah, the First Order, they became very... J.J. Abrams pushed the Nazi symbolism very on the nose with the First Order salute. Again, it's a fist raised up. If you extend the hand, it becomes a Nazi salute.
Might as well just call the Snoke Darth Hitler. I mean, it was that on the nose.
Yeah. Especially with all the red.
Yeah, but Darth is too old school. He just has to be Snoke. Just Snoke.
Yeah, the red and everything, and the like, yeah, it's like it's just really going for like the imagery, and it's really not the Empire.
Yeah, what the
Yeah,
heck?
I wonder if he needed to get talked out of making the whole thing in black and white. Like you see all the Nazi footage.
Well, he needed to be. Well, I suppose he didn't really need to be talked out of more. They said no. Like he really wanted to make The Force Awakens much more political by making all of the protagonist characters Asian. All the
How would that make it political? Like,
well, he wanted it all to be Asian. Everything to be Asian.
what political side would that be pushing? Communism, like China, or what? How?
Well,
What-
it's in terms of in terms of pushing diversity.
That's not diversity, though. It's just Asians. There's no diversity there. It's just one race.
What the logic is that there isn't many Asian representation within Star Wars, and that was supposed to the idea of pushing it in the sequels was to level it out with the rest of the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy.
You know, John Wick did that. They had a lot of Asian representation in the movies, and it was awesome. But because they had purpose there was actually a reason behind it, not just let's just put Asians in the movie. We got Asians in the movie. We got it's like the Batman versus Superman conundrum. That method, that strategy. We have Batman in the movie. We got Wonder Woman in the movie. We got Doomsday and Lex Luthor in the movie. We're just gonna keep shoving things in the movie because we want them in there and be cool. But they're kind of in there for no reason. Just kind of to string them together like a series of fights in a fighting game during the story mode.
We're also talking about J.J. Abrams, the creator that went into some awards ceremony, and he was sitting there in the interview. He said, I was in this award ceremony, and one thing I couldn't help but think to myself when looking around the room is that this is so fucking white. And then he started ranting about apparently if a film has a black person in it, it becomes an urban film, and apparently that kills him when people refers to a black person in a film making an urban film. And I was like, who calls films with black people in it an urban film? I've never heard of that before.
Plinkett actually makes fun of that. It's called the urban market. The urban market wasn't still my television. So they won't say black people; they'll say urban market. Yeah, it's in one of the Plinkett reviews. I forgot which one, but yeah, he makes fun of that. The fact that they do that.
Look up to refer back to it, but then I found something new. J.J. Abrams demands to end white comfort. Okay.
What does that even mean? White comfort?
J.J. Abrams shares 20-page guide on dismantling white supremacy at work and at large.
Oh yeah, the bad robot thing. I think we covered that at one point.
Yeah, well, we covered the 20-page thing, but that was about dismantling white supremacy. I'm trying. What's the dismantling white comfort? Oh no, he demands to dismantle white comfort and to end it.
So a guy who's being paid millions of dollars, a white guy, by the way, being paid millions of dollars, and he probably lives in a lap of luxury because of that, is demanding that to end white comfort of all white people, even the guy, even including the people who just work every day of the week trying to make a scrape together living out of a trailer or something. Yeah, I don't think they're all that comfortable. J.J. Abrams, Mr. I'm living in my mansion kind of guy.
So the following was put on Instagram. Enough is enough. Enough police brutality. Enough outside privilege. Enough polite conversation. Enough white comfort. Enough lopsided access. Enough exhausting our friends and colleagues. Enough being incurious. Enough being unintentional. Enough injustice. Enough death. Enough. And that was a very long ran on Instagram, then it's been reposted on Twitter by Bad Robot.
That was how many likes does it have? Like 4 or 5 million, probably.
I can't see what it's got on Instagram, and I can't see what it's got on Twitter because the screenshot has cut it off.
Because Twitter's a far leftist matrix, so it's if they have something weird like that, it's going to have like a 4 or 5 million likes or something.
Bad Robot are very grateful to the many scholars, activists, and organizers and leaders fighting on the front line to change our systemic system, and then it's just got the same Instagram post.
Okay, John Lemley. Guys, I don't think JJ has enough yet. Has had enough yet? Has had enough yet of what? That's the good question. Money? White people in his office? I have no idea.
If it's money, probably. He has way more than he actually deserves. If it's criticism and critique and, well, downright mockery, no, he hasn't had enough yet.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like the quote I was talking about before when he was talking about Asians and the Emmys or something being so white. I remember seeing it before, but it's just there's so much like shit J.J. Abrams has said about white people. Like some of these quotes are very strange.
That was months ago when they had this stupid blackout nonsense. Every company on the planet was saying something with black background and white font. You're like, all right, yeah, people died. We get it. It's bad, sad. Okay. We have less than a minute, guys. Come on. Let's get this over with. That was a fun video of nothing. Let's see what else she has to say about it. Fascism.
And yes, Star Warsizing has always heavily relied on marketing bad characters like Darth.
That's the 7th time she's done that. This annoying double air quote bunny ears thing. And Heinz is back. Hey, look at that. Oh, that was a great transition. You really went from bunny quotes to Heinz bottle. It's amazing.
Vader and Boba Fett in order to help earn that sweet green. But the significance of iconography can shift over time, and I do think it's worth examining.
The thing is, characters like Boba Fett weren't made to sell; they were just made, and then they ended up selling. And it was the bad guys which happened to sell more than the protagonists.
Someone co-wrote this with her?
Angelina. You don't think she actually read all those books, do you?
Yeah. This doesn't fit with my political ideology. Let me get someone else to help me.
You don't think she actually just happens to know about Umberto Eco?
Jeez.
Special thanks to Dan Olson. Usually it's in like special thanks, just more along the lines of they didn't really do anything, but here's the name anyway.
What was her conclusion? She had no conclusion. We can actually listen to it, but it's nonsense. I'll tell you that right now.
It's fine. That said, I do think it's worth examining how has always heavily relied on marketing bad characters like Darth Vader and Boba Fett in order to help earn that sweet green. But the significance of iconography can shift over time, and I do think it's worth examining the difference of selling cute, fashy bad guy characters in 1977 and selling the same in 2018.
Iconography is not an ideology.
Looks and aesthetic and not ideology either.
Again,
Stormtroopers and Darth Vader and Boba Fett. Like, even bringing Boba Fett into this, Boba Fett doesn't have a fucking political ideology. He's a fucking bounty hunter.
He's a guy who just
in a film.
Boba Fett just got popular because he had really cool looking armor.
And then he sold a lot of toys. And then people said, "Oh, look, this guy's a lot of toys. Let's make a story for him. Let's do this stuff. Let's give him a father. Let's make him a club."
All right. Well, that was I wouldn't say a waste of time, but it was pretty stupid. I mean, people recommend these videos for us to go through, and they're ridiculous.
Again, the two fuckers that wanted to watch this video, they're not here.
Yeah, but we love her video editing, how she jumped from here to there, and she has that...
Who voted for the video? Was it Dunn and Glib?
Dunn and Glib.
Yeah. Were they just playing a prank on us? That was the idea behind all this?
It's all Dunn and Glib's fault.
I'm going to vote for this terrible, awful video, and then I'm not going to be there. Ha, ha, ha.
Dunn had other commitments. Wait. Is Dunn still alive? Is that his commitment?
How was the video? He's saying, it's like, "Shut up, Dunn. You weren't even here." I see you there.
Yeah, and then there's Glib, who went to sleep.
Yeah. Well, we got a super chat from Skids. Respond to Captain Midnight or I'll eat Marmite. Well, why don't we do both? Why don't you try it and tell us what it's like, and we'll do the Captain Midnight videos. That was on the list, and it's a short video. It's not that long, and we can do it. It's not hard. attacking was it the Fandom Menace, or what was it? Who were they attacking? Us? Like the general people who talk about Star Wars on YouTube? Or I can't recall the video, but anyway, we're voting again. We vote every time, and we'll make sure that's on. It's already there. Everything someone given us that we've considered is on a list, and we vote on it every single time. So don't worry, we'll get to it eventually, and hopefully sooner than later, and hopefully we'll get Glib and Dunn this time to suffer with us.
Glib has very weird sleeping patterns, and I think that's just because he's not got anything going on right now. Then again, I have nothing going on right now, and I've managed to maintain somewhat of a sleeping pattern this last couple of months. Yeah. And I've been in isolation longer than Glib has, so he doesn't have a fucking excuse.
Anyway, that was Lindsay Ellis. I'm not impressed. I thought she was smarter than this, or I thought she takes like months to make a video, and this could not have taken more than 2 weeks at most. So it wasn't very good. It wasn't. She was referencing things that didn't make any sense or didn't make any relationship to her topic, which is when you don't make a video or don't write an essay. You do your research, you say, oh, this is the wrong topic I'm researching. I shouldn't talk about this. There's no evidence. And that's what happened here. So, no, there is no ideology to the First Order. There's no ideology to Kylo Ren, aside from being Sith. That's that. So, whew. All right, guys. Well, thanks for your suggestions, as always. We do appreciate it. This one was a little strange, but that's okay. Good to get different flavors of YouTube and see what's out there. And we'll be happy to do others. TEDx is always popular. Renegade Cut is always popular. But, whatever you got, go to the Discord, put your suggestions in. We're happy to read about them and check them out. So thanks, guys, for joining us. That's LiteratureDevil and Shiny. And we'll see you guys real soon. Have a great night.